Welcome everyone to Izuna Talk episode 0. This is a podcast I had in mind for a long time. The idea is to talk to experts of a specific game, but episode 0 is a bit special. We're not talking with just a challenge runner, but we're talking with someone who has a lot of experience with action game in general. He is the creator and administrator of Stinger Magazine, a website and forum that specializes in analyzing action games. Please welcome Raeng, also known as Roita.
Hello everyone. Nice to be here, to be the number one guest or the first guest. But I'll always be the number one guest.
You always be number one, yeah. So you'll be number 0 actually.
Yeah, actually, now number 0. How quickly I fall. I was really looking forward to how you would pronounce the first nickname. You did okay. You did okay. Like I've heard so many people like Raeng.
How should you pronounce it? Actually, what's the correct pronunciation?
Just Raeng. Just
Raeng, okay.
Like you rang? Yeah, you rang.
Okay.
But
so first of all, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Yeah. I was really looking forward to this actually. Like the whole day, I had to work from home because of all the stuff that's going on. I was like, oh man, I'm actually really curious how this is gonna go. So my wife always gets home at like 6:15, which is like half hour ago. And I was like, I told her yesterday, I got it, I got that thing. So we better finish dinner.
I'm happy. Okay. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it was really cool. So she even said, like, "Can I watch?" I said, "There's nothing to watch. Like, it's just me sitting behind my desk, holding a pen in my hands, trying to sound important."
Which is most of what YouTube is, pretty much.
Nice.
So first of all, like the number one question I will probably ask everyone: how did you started? When and how did you started playing games? Like, what was the point that said, "Okay, I really like this hobby"? When did you start? What was your first video game you remember?
The first video game I remember was Jurassic Park 2 for the Super Nintendo. Like I was 4 or 5 years old, and a friend of mine, he was really, really. I want to say rich, but it was more than like they were 2 kids that really fought for their parents' attention, like for love, and they all. It always felt like they were constantly both giving gifts to them, even though the parents weren't divorced. So he had all the latest consoles, all the latest games, all the latest toys, the biggest Legos. And one day I was there, and he's like, "Yeah, I got this, like that thing hooked up," and we were playing Jurassic Park 2. And for your, like, do you know Contra?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's basically a really bad version of Contra.
So a really bad run and gun, pretty much.
Yeah, it's just a run and gun game.
Dinosaurs.
And you can that was the joke. There were no dinosaurs. The whole game you had to, like the stupid thing was that nearly the whole game you had to, at least from what I remember, you were fighting soldiers in caves that were trying to kill the dinosaurs, and you were trying to save them. Because I remember you had a little icon that said how many dinosaurs you saved or something.
So it's a Jurassic Park game where you don't shoot dinosaurs.
Exactly. That's when I knew, with people phoning it in this big, I want to be part of that hobby. But no, I remember just playing that game, and we both thought it was really scary, so we played co-op, and it was just fun to do. And later, I begged my parents to get me a Super Nintendo as well. Back then, they thought really logically. They said, "Okay, you have a Super Nintendo, but you also have a Game Boy, which is a Super Nintendo you can take with you."
Okay, so they got you a Game Boy.
So they got me a Game Boy. I wasn't gonna say pissed because I was still super happy I got a piece of gaming equipment.
But you wanted the Super Nintendo.
I wanted a Super Nintendo. I was like 6. I was like, I want one. And like for Christmas or something later next year, I remember I got one with Mario All Stars, and that's really where it started.
Oh, okay, that's a good game to start.
Yeah, like up until that time, it was like I had Mario and Tetris, because video games were really. I don't know how it was where you live, but video games were super expensive. Like barely affordable. So my parents, they bought me the starter edition with the Game Boy, which came with Mario and Tetris. So I just played those, but Tetris wasn't really my kind of game, and that Mario game was, I think, too difficult for someone starting out. Like it was the first.
It was probably Super Mario Land, right?
Yeah, Super Mario Land. I remember I got to the third stage, which was the Egyptian one.
Oh yeah, that's great.
And I just like I was 4 or 5 years old. My
It was
motor.
actually one of my first game too, Super
Yeah,
Mario.
I
Yeah.
think for a lot of people because it came pre-bundled and it was a Game Boy game.
Mm-hmm. It
But
actually
then,
was my mother's game. Like my mother had
yeah,
Game
really.
Boy. Yeah.
Hmm.
She actually bought it with like the first bonus she got at her job.
Oh,
She bought a
nice.
Game Boy and like Super Mario Land, like the Bugs Bunny like Crazy Castle or whatever
Yeah,
it's
stuff
called,
like that.
and a Mickey Mouse game. But
I re-
I really remember liking like Super Mario Land.
yeah, I replayed it like a few years ago, and I beat it in like an hour or something.
Yeah,
Like
it's a really short game.
it's a really short game, but like what Mario All Stars for me, that's really where it really began. And then later Donkey Kong,
Mm-hmm.
like seeing that, like I still think that's one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. Like the not in terms of graphics, like technical level, while it's still impressive. I just really like the snow levels. Like it really nailed that
The
atmosphere with the
aesthetic, yeah.
music, the aesthetic. It was so beautiful. Still is.
So, what
Uh,
do you think is the game that, or the moment in a game that made you like become really passionate about the medium in general?
oh, that's really difficult, actually.
If you have one.
Yeah, I'm looking for one. I think what really oh man, this is gonna get personal and emotional probably. No, it's not that bad. I think it was Pokemon.
Oh, okay.
Um, if I had to pick one like off the top of my head, like maybe if I'll sit for a few more hours, I'll
Mm-hmm.
suddenly say like Ninja Gaiden changed my life. I wish it did, but I really think it was Pokemon because up until that point, I was a really like quiet kid in
Mm-hmm.
school. I was bullied a lot because I had allergies and like I was a bit different in that sense. I was fat. I was really fat. I was like this little lump of gold. So I didn't really hung out with that many people. So I just played games at home and stuff. And then
Yeah,
Pokemon
I
came
can
out.
relate to that.
Yeah, I think every nerd can in some respect. And then Pokemon came out, and everybody was playing Pokemon. Everybody had the cards. Everybody watched the TV show, and this was my territory. You know, video games like everybody brought their Game Boy to school, and they traded Pokemon,
Yeah, it was,
and
like the
every
entire Pokemon fever thing was like an amazing thing that has
yeah,
not been replicated since, pretty much.
it was crazy. But then came the thing, like most of the kids in the playground, they were like, let's say they just beat the fourth gym, and I
Mm-hmm.
had already captured Mewtwo.
Oh, okay.
So I came to the
So
playground. People
you
were like,
had bragging rights.
yeah, I had bragging rights, and I remember I organized a Nintendo club
Mm-hmm.
in my school, and everybody that wanted to join that came, and I bought stickers. I remember, and I set up the TV to constantly have a Pokemon videotape playing, and I had quiz questions. And we came with like 10, 20 kids came to my house, and we just talked Pokemon. We had the contest. We did
Oh, that's
Pokemon
great.
battles. I was like 7 or something. And I remember the first time I did it, it was terrible. Like barely anybody showed up.
Mm-hmm.
and the
Okay.
second and the second time, it was like a hit to the point that this next day, like everyone was like, "When's the next one? When's the next one? When's the next one?" And I remember that really made an impression on me because it was sort of that community aspect that I really like about video games.
Okay, so it gave you the first it became a social thing for the first time.
Yeah, I think that's a good analysis. Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
it became I'm sort of getting nostalgic. I almost want to pop the game in and play that again. Like it was just, but it was more because it was more than a game. Like you had the movies, you had the card games. Everybody was collecting the cards. Um, I don't know,
Yeah,
like that.
everyone was talking about it. Like even
Yeah,
even
yeah,
adults were talking about Pokemon. Like everyone in the world was playing Pokemon.
exactly.
And
It crushed. I remember a
yeah, it was
kid.
a really special thing. Like it never has been
It,
replicated. Like not at that level.
not at that level. Like, of course, you got games that come and go a lot now.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, it's hard to grasp it. Like you have kids that are so hype about Fortnite. Like I see them do the Fortnite dance when I'm walking across the street with the
Yeah,
Fortnite
but
t-shirts.
like with Fortnite, like it's something that is like focused only around kids,
Yeah,
pretty much.
pretty much.
like the big like fever again
Mhm.
around
But
Pokemon.
Pokemon was
But
everyone,
Pokemon got
adults, kids,
everyone. Like everyone talked about Pokemon. Like you went to like a store and they had like
every.
spoons with Pokemon on in them, and like everything was Pokemon. Like everyone was talking about Pokemon. Like you will go to I don't know every school, every playground, and
But
everyone was playing Pokemon, talking about Pokemon. It was amazing.
I remember actually because one time we were on vacation and we had to wait for a boat or something, and I
Hmm.
just grabbed my Game Boy, and it was another kid somewhere else with a Game Boy, and I didn't even ask if he was playing Pokemon. I was like, "Hey, you want to do a match?" Because I brought my cable with me, and he
Yeah,
was like,
because
"Yeah, sure,
everyone was playing.
yeah, of course." And you said it's never been replicated. I think there's one game that did do it, and that was Pokemon Go. I think that
Yeah,
game, I think that game really
yeah, it came close to recapturing that
yeah,
feeling.
if the game wasn't as broken of a mess as it was and had a proper versus mode, I think that game really like I remember there were articles about people finding dead bodies like
Oh,
that they
jeez.
went yeah because like people went outside so much like to locations they never went before. They found like hidden burial grounds and people that were killed and assassinated. There were people that were using Pokemon Go. They were like you could set up these stations
Hmm.
that you got extra experience points or something. But there were criminals that were in New York that would set up those stations and then wait in an alleyway to rob kids.
Jesus.
Like it, there's this video where there's a Blastoise or a Charizard, and you see like people running out of their cars, like and not just one guy, like the whole street is like Charizard. So it's like that. That was crazy. That was
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Yeah, it
Uh,
was short-lived, but it was like came really close to recapture that feeling of like everyone playing Pokemon at the same time.
I think it was mostly because it was a shitty game. I think that's why I failed.
Yeah, it was a mobile game, so yeah.
It was terrible, but the idea was sound. So, but yeah, I think Pokemon, the first game that really, I think it's also one of the games that still, in my opinion, has the best sequel. I
Oh
think,
yeah, the second generation is the best game.
yeah, it's so good.
Don't at me.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the amount of content they put in. Like I remember I beat the game, and spoilers for everybody like who's been living on a rock and hasn't played it. But like when you beat the game, it's not like oh here's a ticket to go to the world of the first game. I'm like
Yeah.
this is probably a joke. Like I can like go into one city and fight a boss. No, the entire world is there. And like everything's changed, and you get to fight the protagonist from the first game, and it's like, what? As a result, every Pokemon game ever since has disappointed me greatly.
And that means you have good taste.
Yeah, it's the only other one I ever really played was Colosseum, the one on the GameCube.
No, okay.
I thought that one was pretty good too. But everything after, I still want to try Sun and Moon.
You shouldn't.
Yeah, I sometimes hear decent things about it, but I'll take your word for it. It's yeah, like I'd rather just replay Gold and Silver, even though my cartridge
Probably.
died. Yeah, my
Now
cartridge
maybe
died.
you should play the remakes like
Yeah,
Art Gold and Soul Silver.
they're good.
Yeah, yeah, they're pretty good.
Now, I still have a really painful memory of the original that, like, you know that the battery dies after, like, I think it
Mm-hmm.
was 380 saves or something.
Mm-hmm.
The saving
Yeah,
battery
yeah,
starts.
it happened to me.
And I had a team of, and this is going to show just my passion for the game. I had a team of, I think, 50 level 100 Pokemon. Like
Okay.
I had multiple teams
Mm-hmm.
already, and they had nicknames, perfect setups, and they were. I made drawings of them when I was a kid, and the last time I looked at them, they were still there, and I never dared like,
Touch them again.
yeah, never. I was like, if I touch it, they will go. And then one day I was having a drink with a friend in my place, and he
Mm-hmm.
said, just boot it up, man, just boot it up, do it. What's the worst thing? I was like,
I
it's
don't want to lose them.
I don't want to just boot them up, and I boot the game up, and just see new game. Oh,
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 that's
they're all
gonna hurt.
gone. Oh, like I barely. I was so close to cracking. I was like, oh my child, and I still have the cartridge somewhere. I'm just pretending it. They're still there. They're still there.
Yeah,
They're
that's
still
still
there.
there.
They're still there. So yeah, that's. But no,
So
funnily
you
enough,
started with Pokemon.
yeah. But funny enough,
That what ignited your passion for the medium in
yeah,
general.
yeah, really, really. Like, and I think that's also because like I said, video games were expensive, so I got like the only time I got games was if I got one for my birthday, so that was one a year. So I didn't have a lot of games, so I really replayed games like so many times. Like Pokemon was a really, especially Yellow, I replayed a lot because I didn't really want to hang on to one save, but also like games like PC games, like I would buy a cheap PC game, and I would just play like 20 times through.
Yeah, that was pretty normal when you were a kid. Like you
Yeah,
didn't have like the income to buy everything.
exactly. And then when I got a teenager, I remember I got my first job. I got so I want to say addicted to buying games. I would go. There was a Inner Toys, which is like a little toy shop, and they had like a small collection of games. Like every Saturday after work, because I worked 7 days at a like an elderly home, I served them dinner, or like I brought the dinner to them. Like I wasn't the chef. And after work on Saturday, I would go to the city. I would just, what game do I have? And I would come back with like, I don't know, Tales of Symphonia for the GameCube. And I would beat it like 50 times, like so many times. And then, okay, time to buy another one. It's like, okay, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. Let's go. Let's beat this 10 times in a weekend. I was stomping out. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was stomping out so many games. It was ridiculous. I kind of missed that time. It was Tales of Symphonia is such a good game.
That Tales of Symphonia, great, yeah. So when did you start with like action games specifically?
It happened around PlayStation 3 era.
Like, okay, so pretty late.
Yeah, really late. I knew about action games. There was like I had a poster of Ryu Hayabusa in my bedroom actually.
Oh, okay.
They came in an action in a game magazine, and they had this review of their Hurricane packs. I still remember that image of Ryu wielding the boat, like the lunar.
So it was Fate, pretty much.
Yeah, like I remember that image with the lunar. I thought he looked so cool, and I thought the animations looked so like you saw him like mid swing or something. I probably still have it somewhere in the attic, but I never really played those games. I always felt they were like dumb button mashers, even though I never played them. And I always stuck to the GameCube.
We'll come back to that later because I have some things to say about that.
All right. I stuck to the GameCube, and then like PS3 came around, and I wanted the PS3 to play Dead Space because I was a big fan of Resident Evil 4, like everybody else that grew up in that time. And then I got a subscription. I got Bayonetta with the subscription of the magazine. I was like, "Fuck it, let me play Bayonetta," and I thought Bayonetta was pretty cool. I hated all the mini games, like still do.
As you should.
Every time I play that game, I reach mini games. Like, no, they're like I would forgive them if the mini games were good. Like I'm a bit. This is a bit future stuff, but I really, one of my favorite arcade games is Super Hang-On. I play it so many times when we visit my in-laws in Taiwan and when we go to Japan. Like Super Hang-On, I love it. And the racing game, like the bike segment in Bayonetta, is supposed to be sort of inspired on that, and it's terrible. It is like everything that makes that game good is absent there. But anyway, Bayonetta, and what Bayonetta really gave me was this sense of it's something new for me. It really brought back that, because I beat it on all difficulties, and I think I got the pure platinum rank on a few chapters.
Okay.
And it really brought back that old school difficulty feel for me. Like I didn't have a lot of games growing up, but I did do a lot of challenge runs on the games that I had.
Okay, so you started with challenge run immediately, pretty much.
Yeah, because I didn't have a lot of games to play. So first I would play it, and then I would do 100%, like until I got the 100% down. Like for instance, Super Mario World, I would get all the dragon coins and get all the stages cleared, like in an afternoon. And then I would be like, okay, maybe I can beat the game without using a mushroom, or without. I remember I beat it once without walking, which was a really big challenge.
Without walking.
Yeah, so I would just jump.
Okay.
That was really fun. So Bayonetta brought that feeling back to me, and then I remember there was a lot of people that on GameFAQs I was talking to. They said like Vanquish is the bomb, and okay, I was like, oh, it's getting pretty good reviews, but no multiplayer. Like, I was pretty big of a Call of Duty fan at that time. Like, I'm sorry, it's a phase.
No,
Yeah,
it's no problem. It's no problem. Come on.
I had a
We
what
all
was it?
made mistakes when we were
I,
young.
for those who want to talk shit, I had 5.2 KD, so I was doing pretty okay. But I was a camping bitch. Like, it was
Okay.
absolutely terrible. So long story short, I bought Vanquish and I got
Okay.
the platinum in 5 days. I got the platinum.
Oh wow.
I just churned through that game, and then I went to play God Hard, and it was like I was in love. Like, this game was so much fun, and it was so challenging, and it really had like a lot of nuance to it. And then I got to GameFAQs forums, and I saw like stuff like boost dodging, EMP slides,
Yeah, so all the tech.
all the tech, and I started talking to people like SBK and Starkiller, recent, or as more people know, Big V,
Mm-hmm.
or God Mode God, or the guy has like 1,000 nicknames. Big Benedict, he was there as well. Jester, some other users. Like, it was really, I had a lot of good memories about that. But this is the turning point. I was really proud of that platinum, because that platinum had like it's sort of a transition, because I used to 100% all the games I had when I was young. Platinum was like the goal for every game, so I really platinumed every game that I got usually.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, I got a really difficult platinum. Like, Vanquish had like a 9.5 out of 10 difficulty rating or something because of Challenge 6. And then a friend said, I got one that's harder to platinum.
Oh.
And I was like, impossible. I can do anything. Like, I was kind of bragging to him. And then he gave me Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2.
Oh, so you started with Sigma. Okay.
Yeah, I started with Sigma. And I put it in the disc. And I remember I reached the 4th stage on Acolyte, like the lowest difficulty, where you have to play as Momiji. And I got my ass handed to me so badly. I made this giant ass rant on GameFAQs that this is the most garbage piece of game I have ever touched. That it's broken, unresponsive. It doesn't make a lick of sense. It's stupid. You can probably still find it. Like, it's somewhere.
I probably will.
Yeah, it's somewhere on the GameFAQ. Like, if you go to the Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2 forums, you can always recognize the old posts for me, because I use a lot of emojis.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a phase. I was like 20 at the time, and there was a guy there that I remembered from the Bayonetta boards, I think. And he gave me just a few very simple tips, and he linked me a video that explained stuff like on landing UTs, how to manage your essence, because all that stuff went way above way over my head. I was just mashing buttons and be like, why am I not winning?
Why am I not winning? Yeah.
Why is this? Why? Because there was a boss fight where you had to fight 2 Tengus, and one can grab you.
Oh, the 2 Tengus guy. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and he grabbed me off screen. I was just getting demolished, and then it clicked. I put the disc back in. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna let this game beat me. And I got to the stage where you're on the giant airplane.
That's a good approach.
I'm not gonna let this game beat me. And then I reached the stage when the giant airplane, I think it's the Flying Fortress Daedalus or something.
Yeah.
And the music started, and I think I used the Tonfa or something, and it was just so
I
good.
don't remember actually where you get the Tonfa in Sigma.
I'd have to check it. Maybe it was the Vigorian Flails or the Kusarigama. I just remember it wasn't Dragon Sword.
Like in Ninja Gaiden 2, you get them there. Like the Tonfa in the fortress.
They're in the fortress.
It's the same in Sigma.
I think you get them earlier in the Sigma, but I'm not sure, because they switched some weapons around. But yeah, I played Sigma 2, and I fell in love. I beat it on Acolyte, then immediately on Warrior, then Mentor, then Master Ninja, which really
Master Ninja is really, really hard in Sigma 2.
Yeah, like I still think it's one of the easier Master Ninja settings, but it's also the most unforgiving one, because you just die in a hit. Like in the other games, you can tank a bit, like you can tank a few hits, and especially if you have healing items. But here's like one grab and you're gone. And some of those mages, they can just grab you in a frame, like they teleport below you, and boop, you're gone. And then I started doing because to get the platinum, you had to beat the co-op stages.
Oh,
And,
Jesus. Okay.
yeah, and have you ever played those co-op stages?
I didn't, but I know them from like fame,
Yeah,
infamy, actually.
yeah, infamy. Infamy is right. Like for the listeners who don't know, like the co-op stages in Ninja Gaiden Sigma are so brutally difficult. Like you have an AI companion that's terrible. So and if he dies, you die as well. So you need to keep him alive. So it's technically impossible to beat the game.
So you play them? You play them all solo?
No, 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 no.
Oh, okay.
Right now, nobody has beaten them all solo yet.
Oh, really?
There's one guy that's still trying, Sound Dreamer.
Oh,
But there's just too much RNG involved.
yeah. I can.
It's,
It's an AI partnerism.
the AI is part of it. But anyway, yeah, I played those challenges to death. But if you want to find a co-op buddy, they would first just ask you, can you beat Wolf, which was one of the bosses, 10 times in a row without dying? I was like, no, I can't.
Okay.
Then I'm not gonna play with you. I was like, oh, fuck, I gotta step up my game. So I just made saves for every boss and just practice because I wanted that platinum, and because I wanted to show that friend of mine that like I can do this. I can do
Oh,
this.
okay. So
It was still so, but
it
that's what
was
I told.
personal.
It was personal, but that was more just me telling myself. Like I deep down, I was just in love with the game.
Yeah, yeah. Of course.
And then I got the platinum eventually.
Mm-hmm.
It was super difficult, but I was so proud. And that friend was like, "Yeah, cool, whatever." I was like, "I did it, man! I did it!" And then I downloaded the demo from Sigma 1, and it just
Mm-hmm.
went all from there. Like I originally didn't really like Sigma 1 because it was too open worldy for my taste. I wanted more linear. But eventually, I really grew to love it. Then I played Ninja Gaiden 3,
Oh, poor soul.
which was yeah. Then Razor's Edge. Then Metal Gear Rising came out. I played that. I started the
So you
government.
pretty much played the original last.
What did you say?
Like you played the two originals one last.
Yeah, really late even. Like I bought an Xbox like years later, a used one with Ninja Gaiden Black, Ninja Gaiden 2004, and Ninja Gaiden 2. And I
Oh,
just
2004, not even black. Okay.
yeah, also Black.
Oh, okay.
And then I just played 2004 first, and then Black, and then Ninja Gaiden 2, and I hated Ninja Gaiden 2. I remember I gave it a lot of tries. I also write that in that article I wrote about it. Like I tried so badly because everybody was talking, like everybody that I know was in the know, like SBK, Infinity, and some other guys. They all really love Ninja Gaiden 2. I'm like, this game is a piece of shit. Like it's unfair, it's spammy, it's broken. The game runs at like 5 frames per second. How can you like Black is like this masterpiece? And I remember I beat it on Warrior badly. Like it was embarrassing because I was also a bit arrogant going in because I beat Sigma 2. So I was like, how hard can it be? You
Like,
know?
yeah, it's the same game. Why can I
It's
not?
the same game, right? Like, I got
Why
butchered
not?
on.
Why everything? Like, why not? Why are my skill not translating?
Yeah, like I was like, oh, here's Wolf. Like I beat him easily, and he just like nothing works. None of my tactics like transferred over. Especially with Alexei. Like Alexei was super easy in Sigma 2, and on Warrior difficulty in Ninja Gaiden 2, he just crushed me. And I was like, gee, I felt ashamed, and I got the mentor, and I was just, this game is fucking ridiculous. Like there's difficulty, and then there's this, and I gave up. And then I tried again, and I gave up again. I tried again, and I gave up again, and eventually my fiance, right now fiance, she was with her family. She was still living with her family in Taiwan,
Okay.
and she would move in with me after like in like 3 months. I was like, if I want to dedicate to a game, I got to do it now. Because
Okay.
then, so I just
Makes sense.
so I was like, okay, which one am I going to do? That I really need to sit down. And I ended up with two choices, and one was Metal Gear Solid 2, and the other was Ninja Gaiden 2. Because I always wanted to play Metal Gear Solid, but it's like a really big dedication. Like you really got to watch all the cutscenes, let it sink in. And I did that with the first one, and I really enjoyed it. But
Yeah, two especially is a really slow game.
Yeah, and I remember playing it for like 10 minutes. I was like, Jesus Christ, okay, I really gotta like book a few weeks for this. But I chose Ninja Gaiden 2, and every day after work, I was like, okay, I gotta sit my ass down and play this game.
So what made you like click with it? Like, did someone explain some of the like mechanics to you, or
No,
you just
literally the thing that worked for me was beating it. Like
okay?
when I beat it, like my first run on Master Ninja was I used so much Ninpo, so many healing items. It was against a lot. Like I beat it, and I didn't feel any joy in it. I was like, yeah, I beat it. Jesus Christ, it's finally
Mm-hmm.
over. But then for some reason the pressure was lifted. Like I didn't have to beat it anymore. Like I had done that, so now I can. I don't know if you remember. There's this South Park episode where they play World of Warcraft, and they
Oh
they
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they beat that guy, and they say, okay, what can we do now? What do you mean? Now we can play the game. Like that,
Exactly.
that,
Yeah.
that was it for me. So I booted up Ninja Gaiden 2 on New Game Plus. I had a massive health bar, and I started playing. I was like, this game is really fucking good. Holy
Mm-hmm.
shit! And then because I had that extra life, like that big life bar with healing items, I could take
You
more
started
risks.
experimenting.
Exactly. And then I was like, okay, let me do another Master Ninja run, this time just regularly. I was like, oh, this is a lot easier now. And then I did it with some single weapon runs, and then I did a challenge run. I was like, this game is so good. Still the only flaw that I can really give it is that it's too long. I wish it was
I can
shorter.
be.
I wish it was just a little bit shorter, like just maybe one or two stages less. But on the other hand, it has so many fun ideas. It has so many wacky disregard for player health. It's
It was really a passion project for Itagaki, pretty much.
yeah, it must have been like also when you see that documentary they made about it, like Ninja Gaiden Black was uh, also nerve wracking
Yeah,
because I
Ninja
mean
Gaiden. The thing is, Ninja Gaiden Black is a lot like more clean as a game.
yeah yeah, but it's
Like
also
it's
Black was
better designed if you actually like only what like if you analyze it like objectively. Like it's the better designed game. Like it's a lot.
yeah, but like Black is I have no problem saying it's the better game. Like
Yeah,
it's it's more cohesive. It
Ninja
has
Gaiden 2 is like I want you dead.
yeah, but it's almost artistic. Like
It almost comes back like to me. It's almost comes back to like the NES era.
yeah yeah it's an NES
Especially
game.
yeah, especially the part in Russia. I think it is like
Mhm.
when you have like the wall and the windows with the guys with rocket launcher in them.
Oh yeah yeah
Like
yeah yeah.
they
That
are respawning again and again and again, just shoot from these like empty rooms, like just
it's
the guy with rocket launcher. It's like he's the most gamey thing you can imagine.
for me like I always loved like the how Ryu just how to say it, like you're in a coliseum, you're fighting a giant wolf with a scythe.
Mm-hmm.
Then you fight all those wolves. There's a helicopter that just shoots everything up, and now you're on an airplane. And
Yeah.
there's this alarm that goes off where they say, "We have a female infiltrator. Be warned, she's very hot." And I'm like, "What?" So what?
Yeah,
It's
that's the beauty of it. Like they
it,
wanted,
it,
like they didn't care about making like an experience. They didn't care about everything
it,
being cinematic. Like just wanted to make a game, like
they just
a gamey game.
they really wanted to make a just a fucking good action game. Like there's a presentation where Itagaki first shows the game off, and he's like, "Allow me to introduce to you the best action game." Like, and this is when like Itagaki and Kamiya were still, even though they're sort of friends, they were clashing like on the internet because Sonya is Dante. Did you know that?
Wait, what?
Yeah, Sonya was put into the game to be like a stand-in for Dante. That's why she has two pistols and like the white hair, and
Okay.
she's the damsel in distress that Ryu constantly has to save. Like
Oh, okay.
it's one
That's
giant middle.
Hidakaki at his finest, pretty much.
Yeah, but it's beautiful. Like
That's
you
his
know,
sense of humor.
and like Itagaki was trolling
Oh, that's amazing.
like 24/7. I really miss him just for like the entertainment he brought to the industry. Even
I
when
was.
he made when he made Devil's Fur and it was a piece of garbage, he would still like look at somebody else's game like your game's a piece of shit, and it'd be like, what game did he call piece of shit? Yeah, Fortnite or Last of Us, like a really big hit. And it's like that game's a piece of shit. I really missed like how controversial he was. But he was also, and I think that really is the difference between Ninja Gaiden Black and 2. Is
Yeah,
with
it's the personality. Like every hinge of Itagaki personality is in Ninja Gaiden 2.
Is in Ninja Gaiden 2, because in 1 he was still afraid. Because in, I don't know if you know that story, but Dead or Alive 2, they were under severe deadline, and I'm hoping I'm telling this story right, but I need to, if people are, for the people listening, check the story just to be sure. I might get some details wrong. The game wasn't finished like at all, and one of the higher upper managers, they would ask him like, "Can you give me like a demo disc so I can like give it a go at home on the test model to see what the progress is?" He's like, "Yeah, here's the demo disc. We're still working really hard on it and everything." And then that executive director just went to the production alley and said, "Okay, got the disc, guys. Let's release it."
Oh, okay. So they
And that was,
immediately released it.
yeah, they immediately, that's a Dreamcast version of Dead or Alive 2.
Okay.
And later he made the PS2 version, which is the finished game.
Okay.
And ever since then, he was really afraid. There's footage where he's like goes to Microsoft in America with the first disc of Ninja Gaiden 2 and Ninja Gaiden Black, I think it was. And there's this part of the interview where he says like, "Where's the disc on my person at all times?" And you still see in the interviews that he's got like a suit and everything. You know, he's really tight, like old school Japanese. And then with Ninja Gaiden 2, it's like full on rocker persona.
Yeah, with the sunglasses and
with the sunglasses, the gambling, and he has his own band. I think he has his own katana, which his father made for him, which is really cool.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's that. Like I got a lot of respect for the man. I still he was really
was one of the strongest personality in the industry, pretty much.
Yeah, definitely, and also apparently really open. Because I remember I did a lot of research on people that interviewed him.
Okay.
And some people, they would just call or send an email to Team Ninja, like, "I want to do an interview with Itagaki, just, try or die." And he would call them up. He said, and he would just call them up in Japanese, expecting them to speak Japanese.
Oh, that's amazing.
And if they didn't speak Japanese, he would just hang up. And so there was one guy, he was a Dutch, actually.
I was going to say, like, it wasn't really too Japanese and it's the way he behaved himself, but like calling someone and not talking with them because it doesn't talk Japanese, it's a real Japanese thing to do.
It's beautiful. But of course, like his English probably wasn't that good.
Yeah, of course.
But there was one guy in the Netherlands apparently that managed to get an interview with him because he, by complete accident, also spoke Japanese, and then he interviewed Itagaki on the phone.
On the phone.
Yeah, like on the phone. It's like, okay, Itagaki just called him like, "Sure, let's do now." And he's like, "Okay." And it was like a really short interview about Ninja Gaiden Dragon Sword, I think.
The DS game.
The DS game, and and I think that's where the thing came from. What's his least favorite games, and that he said my top favorite
Tekken, like Tekken 2, Tekken 3, Tekken 1.
It's like, what's your top 5 least favorite game? Tekken 1, Tekken 2, Tekken 3, Tekken 4, and Tekken 5. and the only reason is that Harada, I think, like one time said something bad about Dead or Alive or something. He's like, "You don't insult my games. I'm gonna hate you every time I see you." That's he was a golden persona. I kind of hope he doesn't come back in a sense, because I don't think he would fit.
No, it won't fit the.
It won't fit the mold.
No.
I think like people like Kamiya and Izuna and stuff, to be like, "Geez, Itagaki, calm down.
Calm down, man.
We don't know this guy. Yeah, we don't know this guy. Like, shut up, cookie face." I don't think he would fit in today's arena, but it was golden stuff back then.
But his game will not fit either. Like,
now, you saw that with Samurai Jack. Did you play that?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people, they were so bitchy about it, because that game was basically like Ninja.
Like at the start, I was too, actually. Like I didn't really understand it.
A lot of people didn't.
Like, it seemed really
broken,
unfair in some places.
It was
actually. I think you and another guy on the forum helped me like sort it out. And I still don't
yeah.
like I don't still particularly like it, but
It's
now I understand it a lot better. Like I
I
got a new
remember.
perspective.
I remember now. Yeah. But it's. I remember like the biggest downside that game had was it allowed you to start at its higher difficulty level,
Yeah,
because that was like playing Ninja Gaiden on Master Ninja from the outset. Like
like
you're not
because you need to unlock pretty much every piece of tech.
exactly, and
And there
later
was
on,
like the Beatles, I think, in the first
yeah,
stage
you're not
that
equipped. You're not equipped.
you can't do anything about them because you don't have the dash, you don't have the advancing guard thing.
You didn't have any of that. Like the in all my subsequent playthroughs of that game, I
Mhm.
immediately like I had this optimal route of buying weapon upgrades.
Yeah,
So I knew like, okay, I gotta buy that one, and then I'm set before the first boss. And then you find out, okay, sure, you can. It's really fucking broken. Like I can melt everything with this. The Tatsumaki is also really broken.
the fist
Um,
in general are really really broken.
yeah, like the entire fist moveset. But on the other hand, I kind of like that. Like everything was just fun to use. I liked every weapon. I liked a lot of the mechanics that they had put in there. But a lot
Mhm.
of people were like, "This game's unfair. It's broken. The enemies hit for way too much damage. The ninjas are too aggressive." I'm like,
Yeah, you really need to approach it like in a different way. You
yeah,
really need to play like kinda to run. Like you
like
need to like knock down enemies and then
yeah,
like go to the next one and knock down him and then
exactly.
go to the next one, maybe kill that guy and then go from there.
You have
Like
to.
it's a really different approach to action games.
It's really different. But on the other hand, you kind of see over there like people. These are the type of games that same with Ninja Gaiden, in my opinion. You need to have an open mind. You need to go in like this game is going to be different than everything else I've played.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. And I'm gonna ask you something about this. Like we see a lot of people do stuff like this. Like
Mm-hmm.
even a lot of people I asked about, like maybe the game didn't click with them initially. Like
Mm-hmm.
you with Ninja Gaiden 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then they either on their own or maybe someone a friend of them or someone on YouTube like told them something about it. Like for example in Ninja Gaiden, like you can like do on landing UTs
Yeah, that's a game changer.
and or like you need to like use the UTs better to like iframe through IS ninjas spam and all that. So a lot of people like need a pointer
Mm-hmm.
to really understand like specific action game, and it happens with everything. Like even with Bayonetta, like a lot of people did started Bayonetta, didn't really understand it, and then saw like a tutorial on YouTube, like explaining like dodge offset and all that.
I
And
was one of those. I was one of those people. Dodge offset at me. It took me years to understand its use. I was like,
exactly, like any once you learn that, like it starts to click, and then
yeah,
you can like really really enjoy the game. So like should uh, action games in general be more accessible in that front? Like should they like explain more to you, or do you think like part of the
ah,
beauty of the game is like the discovery of the tech and the like the community it builds around like discovering all the tech and overcoming the challenges?
I think that the golden standard for me is in the middle, and that's Vanquish. Like
Okay,
Vanquish is for me the perfect example of how you can do that stuff. The basic stuff that you are taught in the game, like meter, like you can boost, you can attack, you can shoot, and you
okay,
have grenades that stun. Like that's the tutorial you get, and that's all you need to beat the game.
okay.
And if you want to get better, and you want to beat the game better, then you can go online and find more tactics where you can experiment. Because one of the things that I really hate in a lot of games these days is like every 5 seconds you get a tutorial pop up.
No,
Uh,
that's terrible. But like something like instead of just explaining to you the basic combat stuff,
yeah,
like
but
maybe a tutorial about you can like do on landings UT.
I I kind of like the exploration aspect. I gotta say, like
Okay.
the sort of uh, like the mystery
Yeah,
stuff, like that.
something is lost. Like something is lost when
Like, but
everything is explained to you.
yeah, when everything is explained, it holds less value. And I think what also changes because of that is, and I had this discussion with God, I don't remember who it was. It was about Street Fighter. And what was the
Okay.
difference between Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter 5, and why 5 was such a piece of garbage in our eyes.
Okay.
And we eventually nailed it down to Aegis Reflector. Have you played
Okay.
Street Fighter?
Not 5.
Okay, well, for the uninitiated, Aegis Reflector is an attack. Basically, you summon a shield, and the shield reflects projectiles, and it deals damage. And it's like a shield that floats in the stage.
Okay, so I guess it was a response to people like complaining about spamming projectiles and all that.
No, it's a super of one of a character.
Oh, it's a super. Okay.
It's a super, and he summons like that. It's like a mirror that stands in front of him, and you can then stand behind it, and it reflects projectiles. That's it. And that was its original intention in Street Fighter 3. But players got really creative with it. Like they would launch players, then summon the Aegis Reflector, so they would fall in the shield, bounce back to you, and then they'd hit you again, and then you'd fall in the shield, bounce back to you for really creative combos, which were not intentional at all. Because the original design was just you got a shield that reflects projectiles.
Okay.
But in 5, it was intentional. And suddenly the entire game plan of that character was you got to get Aegis Reflector. And then you got to do the Aegis Reflector combos. That was his entire game plan. And
so I guess you both lost the community aspect of discovery, and like you got railroaded on a specific playstyle.
Exactly, especially the last part. Like, what if boost dodging in Vanquish was explained, or it was a part of the key mechanic? Then everybody would be doing it, but it would be forced into the gameplay mechanic. Same with online UTs. Yes, it's there, but if you have like this, I don't know, pop-up that says like, hey, don't forget to do this, then you usually see that games get sort of steered towards like, this is how you're supposed to play. Instead of that, you get sort of this free, like, this is your toolkit, have fun, see what you can figure out.
No, I completely agree with that. Like, I think it's part of like the medium in general. It's a big part of that. Like, there is a quote about a lot of like writers that a book is completed only when the reader reads it.
Yeah, it's like, exactly that.
And I think that's the exact same thing, especially with action games, like that creativity and that like community aspect of it, or like discovering tech piece by piece and discovering how to use it. Maybe use it in a creative way, or in things that were not intended. Like I think about inertia in DMC4.
Jump canceling in general, like it was
jump canceling in general was like a bug.
It was just a nice little, like the reason the jump has iframes in DMC1 is because playtesters were complaining they found the roll too difficult.
Yeah.
And they were jumping by accident, so you just gave the jump some iframes, and then the enemy hop was more like a way to reset your jumps, I think, or something.
Okay.
But it wasn't intended to like do what we were doing now. The most basic thing that you see in DMC3 is like the constant killer bees to like melt Virgil away.
Sure.
Like if the second that becomes the intended game design, then it's like, okay, it's a part of the kit, and then they're probably going to balance attacks and bosses. Like, okay, they can do killer bee spam, so either we need to limit the amount of jump cancels that you can do, or damage degradation or stuff like that's going to happen.
So the first grade optimal strategy becomes the norm.
Yeah.
And then you need like to balance everything around it.
And then it gets just terrible.
Okay. You get railroaded in like spamming.
And I think that's the most boring thing, and also the reason why I don't like Street Fighter 5. Sort of stay with it. Like you're railroaded in one combo with that game.
Yeah, because they wanted to make it more accessible to everyone.
Exactly. And of course, in a really high level play, you get a bit more creativity with setups and 50/50.
Yeah, of course.
But for mid to low, it's just this. You basically playing the same player every time. Okay. For my feeling, at least. So yeah, I would say in the middle. I really would like games to have like this aspect of community that you're researching. Oh, what does this weapon do on that boss? I think I know a lot of people like it, but Doom Eternal. One thing I really hated about that game was the tutorial pop-ups before the bosses. Like,
oh sure, yeah. I actually disabled them, or I disabled all of them at the start of the game.
But then you run into the problem because the game was designed with them in mind. That you sometimes like, how the fuck am I supposed to beat this boss? Like,
yeah, especially with the Marauder and all of that.
Yeah, it's like what's the logic going on over here? Like, and then you this enable the tutorial. Okay, this is how I
Yeah,
got.
yeah, no, I agree with that. Like the tutorial in Doom Eternal was way too aggressive. Like it spelled out to you like how here's
With
how you this enemy.
even with like a little GIF playing during us saying, okay, this is when you shoot him, and you better use this weapon. And they do this with the new enemies in the DLC as well. I'm like, just let me experiment. And by doing that, you railroad people down a certain playstyle, which was their goal. So they met
Mm-hmm.
that. They really wanted people to play in this sort of like Doom 16 hardcore style weapon switching. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but
they
it,
wanted
it,
like they wanted people to like to use every aspect of their toolkit.
and as a result, for me, I think the more I play that game, because I'm still playing it from time to time, it reminds me
Mm-hmm.
of Bayonetta 2, in the sense that Bayonetta 2 was technically it was a better game than Bayonetta 1.
Yeah, yeah. The
Technically,
problem was it
wait,
was
wait,
built around the ultimate climax. I think it was.
no, it
Was
was
called.
built. There were a few flaws with that game. We can talk about that in a second. But one of the biggest flaws that game had was it lowered the skill floor,
Yeah,
but also the skill ceiling. So the ceiling in Bayonetta 2, 1 is higher. Like you can advance more because there's more freedom. But as a result, it
that's the big problem of like when new developers want to create like
yeah.
accessible games. Like
Uh, uh,
they decrease the skill floor, which is fine because more people should like
exactly.
should should play them.
And then
But
the
you don't
ceiling
need
suffers.
to like decrease the skill ceiling
And
because
that's
then
not.
you
But
no
that's
go ahead
not
go ahead.
it's not intentional. I think that they lower the ceiling, but it's usually just a byproduct. Like Doom Eternal, the first time I played, I was like, this game is the bomb. Like I will never play Doom 2016 again.
Mm-hmm,
And then I played it more and more, and I found out that the restrictions they put on the game to make casual players play better
mm-hmm.
were making me less creative because I was sort of forced into, okay, now I gotta chainsaw him.
Mm-hmm.
Now I gotta use that weapon. Now I
Ah,
gotta
okay.
hit that weakness. That's how it felt to
I
me.
can see that. I don't like don't think Doom Eternal like railroads you too much. Like
No,
you
no, it's
still
not. It's not. It's not. I'm kind of overblowing it, but it's an example. It's still really a good
no,
game with
I
a lot
get
of
what you
freedom.
mean. I get what you
Yeah,
mean.
but Bayonetta 2, like if you really want to know why it flopped, like they did three things that were really like counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
First off, they made witch time, um,
Essential, yeah.
yeah, essential. It was a key mechanic. It also didn't disappear anymore in the highest difficulty setting. Well, it's
Yeah,
in the
because the entire game was built around
witch time.
witch time and
Yeah,
about like using what it was called which
Umbran climax.
climax
Umbran
Umbran
climax.
climax
Yeah, for
to actually
damage.
do damage and stagger enemies.
Which was also not balanced well because it still had the original orb system. So you had like you could, for instance, summon clones for I think one orb,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like okay, I can either summon clones
Or
for
just
one
use
orb,
Umbran climax with
or
just
just use
everything.
yeah, that just demolishes everything on screen. So the meter balancing was just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this mechanic that, and I'm still a bit iffy on this because I do think action games should look into this. It had a guard break mechanic, like any not a guard break, a combo break.
Yeah.
Like enemies, when you were comboing them, after a few hits, they could cancel your combo.
Yeah, that's a really like it's an interesting mechanic, but you need to
Yeah,
do them. You do need to do it properly
you need to
because
do it.
it gets really frustrating if there is no mm, like if there isn't like a strong design behind it.
Mm.
It's gonna
And
get. I think like one of the games that did it better was Kingdom Hearts 2.
explain because I haven't played that one.
Okay, you should.
I know. I know. It's like this game will haunt me for the rest of my life. This game and chaos. This game and Chaos Legion. Birdman, if you're listening, one day I will play it. Continue.
No, the thing with Kingdom Hearts 2 is that bosses can break out of combo,
Mm-hmm.
but they have a value attached to them called revenge value
Mm-hmm.
that increases depending on the type of attack you do. It is not shown in the game. You need to like to actually dig and understand it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But once you understand the system, like you can start to play around with bosses and maybe loop them or
Because if the revenge meter is full, so to speak, they escape.
they escape and they escape with a specific attack, depending
Ah,
if
okay.
they are on the ground or in the air.
Kind of like when you like an enemy gets out of key in Neo, like they have this sort of revival
Yeah,
attack. Okay,
kind of,
cool.
but it's not shown in the game though. You don't have like a meter that fits.
Yeah, okay.
It's something in the code that isn't shown.
Because
And
I always like the idea, like tech chases, stuff like that. Like that's really interesting in video games, like at fighting games. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah,
In action.
And the beauty of that system is that once you understand it, you can do a lot with it. Like one of the best example is the Data Roxas fight in Final Mix. Like once you understand that system of the range value, you can loop him infinitely. You just do a specific combo and then you finish it with a Launcer and then Thunder, I think, something like that. I don't remember the specific. So he is in the air. He will do a specific revenge value attack, and you can counter it with a reflect and go back in the combo.
And then you just get, and then it just keeps looping up.
Yeah,
and that's good because then you can sort of play into the like the guard break. But in Bayonetta, I'm not sure if it was a number of hits or it was a damage value, but they would get
pretty random. That's the problem. Like the system in Kingdom Hearts 2 is pretty deterministic. Like once you know, like every single attack has a specific value attached to them.
But there was one other thing. Do you know who Serlin is?
No.
David Serlin used to be a high-level Street Fighter player, and he wrote a book called Playing to Win. It's a really good book. It's free. You can just read it online. It's basically one giant fan wank about Daigo, about how big of a god he is. But it's there's one part where he talks about optimal strategy. What you just told me kind of reminds me about it. He says he uses camping as an example. He says, okay, camping is good. Like if you play camping in a shooter, there's chances are you'll perform good because enemies don't really know how to deal with it. So, okay, camping's too good. We want to fix it. So we turn a timer on. Like if you camp more than 3 minutes, you die. What is now the most effective tactic? The most effective tactic is to camp for 2 minutes and 59 seconds.
That's the problem. I think it's called first order optimal strategy. Like something that is so good and so optimal that most of the people will gravitate toward it because it's easy to do.
You see that in Bayonetta 2, for instance, with the guard break. Eventually, people found out I can just launch an enemy from behind, and then he can't counter combo break. Then he can't combo break. So it's like, okay, I can't combo in from the front, then I'll go from the back. It's sort of that optimal. That's what killed God of War, by the way, in my opinion. There's so many.
2018 one.
Just the square triangle. Like I know that it's a really big meme at this.
Oh, you mean the the
classics. Like the square triangle. Like everybody, it wasn't a good move. Like it was okay. But it was so easy to use and so mindless to use. Like you could play the entire game doing square triangle, and when an enemy got close, you roll away. And like fights that I can do in like 10 seconds would take you 5 minutes because you're playing so terribly. But it was easy, so people just gravitated en masse towards and said, God of War is just square triangle. God of War is just square triangle. And there was so much.
People still believe about God of War.
Yeah,
God of War it's actually one of the only good games coming from the Western side, action games coming from the Western side. And it has an amazing system of like grabs and knockouts and all that.
Still the best grab system, and maybe the best magic system that I've seen in action. It is so criminally underrated. And it's mostly because there's just such an easy tactic to gravitate towards, and it also doesn't have a good motivator. I got to give it that. Like
that's what I
have
to ask you. Like, how do you fix that? Like Devil May Cry tried to fix that with the style meter and all that, and the ranking system. A lot of people still just like spam Stinger B and the uppercut with Gilgamesh. I don't remember the name of the move.
I think what already helps is if you just set the mood. Like with Devil May Cry, the entire game is style, you know?
Yeah, it's based on
style. You have a style
as cool as you can.
Be as cool as you can. Dante's cool in the cutscenes. And the most fun stuff about God of War, gameplay-wise, is ring outs and grabs. And what does it do? It gives you a hit counter that gives you more orbs. Okay. If you kill people through ring outs, you get less orbs because you get none because they don't count as dying. Well, they count as dying, but you don't get any orbs from them. So it doesn't motivate you at all to play in the way that's the most fun. I thought about this a lot. I still don't know how you, like, maybe something like a concentration meter, like that rewards efficient play over stylish play. But honestly, I would really say God of War is this game that you should just play and ask yourself the question, like, am I playing good enough? Like, can I play better? Because you can sort of you can motivate people to a certain degree, or like just give them a pop-up message. But eventually, you need to let go of the change. Say, if you want to just play bad, just, like, have you seen DSP?
By name, yeah.
Okay, now DSP is one of the most hilariously bad gamers I've ever seen.
I saw some videos of him.
Like, but somehow he manages, like, every time he gets to a boss that I thought, oh, that boss was pretty difficult, he does it in one go. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But there's this video of him playing Devil May Cry 3, and it's just terrible. Like, you can have
the Cerberus fight when he just shoots him, never uses the sword.
No, but also, like, Virgil's collecting bullets with his katana the whole fight long. Like, do you want to keep players like that in mind, or do you just want to say, I want to make a good game? And I think that's really
you should never design around like that type of gamer.
Exactly, and then you get God of War 2018, which on the surface looks fantastic, but the biggest irony is, you know what the best move in the game is?
Square, triangle.
Yes, it's literally the best. Like, there's even
it's parry, square, triangle.
It's and cooldown abilities. Like, that's it. And the fun thing is, people will just then make combo videos of that game, just doing random flashy stuff, and an enemy that isn't even being combo technically because he's still attacking because everything has hyper armor. It's just doing a couple of cool moves in sequential, and there people get excited from it. It's just, stop having fun. That's the only thing. But God of War 2018 is always going to be difficult for me because I love the original so much.
Yeah, the original is a really, really hidden gem. Like, it's a forgotten masterpiece.
It's a forgotten because it's really bad. Like, if you watch the interviews leading up to God of War 2018, like, everybody, they're asking, like, this is the time God of War grows up and used to be a mindless hack inside. And then you look back.
The script is actually a movie script. It's not a game script.
It's just, but then you look back to the reviews of God of War 1, 2, and 3. And it's like, this is like the best written game ever made. You really feel for Kratos. Like, you guys promoted this game. Like, you guys said this game was a cinematic masterpiece, and now it's like, nah, that's for kids. And for me, that's always a warning sign. If the only way to promote a game or product is saying the previous one was shit, now we're going to do a proper job. Because then you immediately it shows that you need to use reference to make yours. It's like some people saying, like that. I don't know. Marvel has great movies. Like, why does it have great movies? Because DC sucks. Like, but that's not a reason.
Yeah,
that's a comparison. And I have the same with God of War 2018.
And I actually think it actually shows that you are not really confident about your product.
Yeah.
If you always need to compare it to something else and say, oh no, it's better than like Devil May Cry. Trust me, it's better than
it. Like, what are you doing? And it also shows with, and you see that a lot, especially I sort of noticed that with the latest Mikami interview. I think we talked about this before. Is that developers don't know what makes their games good.
Yeah.
And you really see that with God of War, like the original one. The Corey, there's an interview where he says, my combat system's not as good as Devil May Cry. And that's debatable. Like, Devil May Cry 1 was really good. It's still just like one of the best.
Devil May Cry 1 is amazing. Like,
it still stuff is being found. Like little mechanics, little nuances. Did you know there's a hidden Phantom fight where you fight his clone?
Wait, what?
Yes, you can find, like, it's in a chapter. I'd have to look it up, you can just backtrack to an area, and there's like a clone of Phantom just walking around, and you can fight him, and then you get orbs.
Oh, okay.
But
But
he's got
is it like unused content?
no. It's just reused content. I think he has a different little color palette, and he's a bit smaller, I think.
Like it was like on purpose, or it's like a glitch of a
No,
unused.
no, it's completely on purpose. Like it's just a hidden little fight, hidden tucked away. I had never heard of it.
Me neither. Like,
I think it's chapter 6.
okay, no, I'll check it out later.
But stuff like that. But they say it's not as good as Devil May Cry. Yeah, sure, acceptable. But the God of War was about grabbing grabs, throwing people off, doing the cool magic stuff. And what do they add? Like constantly, they just add the wrong things. Like they add weapons that are more about combos. They add a hammer that only doesn't let you dodge anymore, but doesn't let you grab either. It's just a damage dealing tool. And then what does the community do? The community is like, oh, we can use this in cool combinations. We can use it like that. There's this video where there's like an ending segment in God of War 2 where you have to fight like this giant gauntlet, which takes most people like 15 minutes to get through. This is this guy that beats it in 2 minutes by just using all the abilities to the best of his ability. It's beautiful. Because that's what I like. Like these are people that looked at the mechanics and like, yeah, I can do square and triangle,
or I can have fun with the game.
I can just use magic in a fun way. Because a lot of people see magic as cheating, just as like they see healing items in Ninja Gaiden as cheating, or because Devil May Cry really pushed a lot of people into that.
Yeah, that's the big problem.
Like items are bad. And you also see that Astral Chain. Astral Chain, fantastic game, by the way. Really, I cannot state this enough. One of the best action games I've ever played. Like items are a big thing in there. Like you can make mines, barriers. You have grenades that have instant knockback that can just stun lock bosses forever. Nobody uses them. The game even has an in-game reward if you use items. It gives you extra points for your high score. And still people don't use them because I'm not a cheater. I don't need items.
Exactly that. I think that's like a big problem is the way DMC has become like the poster child for action games. Like it's part of it is like because action games are not like cool anymore. No one really makes pure action game anymore.
It's a real shame. Like if you go back to PlayStation 2 era, like everybody wanted that DMC money.
And the problem is that like everyone like has this image of an action game, which is Devil May Cry. So like stylish play, not using items, like be as cool as possible. And that's only like a fraction of the genre. Like you have games like Shinobi or stuff like that based on
Shinobi
play. And I think part of that is actually because action games are really hard to make. Like you need a lot of money and you need a lot of work to do them.
And a lot of talent.
And I think that's a big problem because like a lot of other like forgotten genres like shoot 'em ups or roguelike and stuff like that became like got a revival thanks to indie games.
Yeah, but action games, it's actually, one of the.
You can't really do an indie action games because you need a lot of budget, you need a lot of time, you need a lot of talent, you need a lot of people to do different things.
I think it's also because like there are indie action games. So usually what they do is they just grab one little aspect of the genre, which is usually being stylish,
like arena combat and all that. Yeah. Like here's the character, here's like the same arena over and over, and here's the enemies. Like kill the enemies.
And the enemies usually are brain dead. I think that's one of the main because I can understand why style is so important, because the originator of Devil May Cry was arcade games, like simulating the arcade experience. Because what am I doing when I play Ninja Gaiden? I'm trying to show off.
Yeah, and it's exactly what Kamiya wanted for DMC1. Like it was a real fan, a big fan of arcade games, and he loved that feeling of when people watched you play a 1cc or something like that, and you started to want to show off, to do something cool for the people to watch you.
And
And
then you'd
so
be
it
like,
became,
"What? I didn't
and
know you could do that," stuff like that.
exactly, and that
Yeah.
translated in all the action system, the ranking system in Devil May
But
Cry,
not only that, also the like
which was not really based on combos though in the
no,
first
not
instance.
at all. It was
It was
just
based on doing cool stuff with the enemies. Like the best example
the
I think is
shadow
uh,
one, right?
the shadow one, but
Yeah.
also the chase when Phantom chases you,
Yeah.
and you can just turn around and like reflect his fireball,
Yeah. And you get massive style points for that.
and you get massive. And it's not really like it's not a complex combo. You're not like taking the enemy to the air for like 40 minutes straight,
Or you can just vortex him, by the way.
or you can
That's
just
why,
vortex it.
yeah.
You're just doing something cool with the enemy, and I think that's a big problem with action game today.
No, but
Like
they grab the wrong aspect, but that's the same like right now that when people
it's
say
not that they grab the wrong aspect; is that they don't focus on the enemies.
yeah, that's generally just one of the bigger problems is that enemies get no attention anymore. It's all about
It's
the
all about the
characters.
character. Yeah, exactly.
And one thing I sort of
It's one of the
what,
things that
what,
Ninja Gaiden does best. Like the enemy design in Ninja Gaiden, especially in Black, is superb.
yeah, it's like Black's enemies are great. I still think Ninja Gaiden 2 also like it has the best regular enemies, like the Incinerary Shuriken Ninja, like those guys, they're perfect. Don't change a thing.
Yeah,
But it also has a lot of stinkers like the red dragons and like these are just
yeah. A lot of the bosses are like there to, but
ah, I think the bosses are okay, but mostly the non-delimbable enemies. Like you have like the red dragons and they can tank hits constantly. It's just boring the fight without UTs. But what I wanted to say about
yeah,
maybe saying that maybe the wrong aspect is the wrong way to put it, but like they focus on one aspect and consider that to be the game. It's kind of what you see these days with Souls likes.
yeah.
Is they grab a game, okay, we got bonfires, we got losing your experience when you die, and we got cryptic lore. We're a Souls game now. It's like that's exactly the opposite of
Yeah.
what makes those games good. And like Devil May Cry is good, and it is stylish because it's not good because it's stylish. It has like if you go to DMC 1 and 3, which are my favorite ones, they have really good bosses, really good weapons, really interesting enemies that okay, there are some stinkers in there, I gotta admit.
Yeah,
But at least they try something new. At least they're not just enemies that walk slowly and maybe do an attack once or twice. Like especially on DMD, like the lusts, I think their name is in DMC3, like those red demons, the red sand demons, they get super aggressive. And those Dula, I think they're Dulahans, the ones that teleport constantly. They're really cool. Like it's a really cool game, and it's really difficult. So when you're good enough at it to style in it, it feels really good. Like if you just like you
because
can
you're not just like comboing a training dummy. You are comboing
yeah.
something that can easily kill you.
It like the I remember the first
It also
boss.
creates, especially in a game with like with the style system of the
Mhm.
DLC has, like it creates a reason to use all your tools
Yeah,
and do the cool stuff like having an enemy in the air and then seeing an attack coming from a screen and just like royal guarding through
yeah,
him, continuing the combo because you're skilled enough to continue the combo after the royal guard. But that's because like the enemy is like helping you be cool.
yeah, yeah. But it's and I think it's also sort of a how do I call it? This is my bad English. Vindication. I think like there's this boss that's been killing you for a long time now, and now it's revenge. You know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You can just style on him for like hours, and it's like now the tables are turned. Kind of like when you're fighting. I think this is most seen for me if you play Devil May Cry 5. Like you can juggle Virgil, and that is for me everything that's wrong. Like right there. Like you could, and I know there's people that like mechanically speaking, I think it's an improvement because if you can juggle him, if you can't juggle him, you lose options, obviously. But I think from a different standpoint, from like just if you go beyond mechanics, just talk about the vision of the game. I think that's a mistake, making Virgil juggleable. I'm not sure if that's even a discussion if people were talking about that. But when I was able to juggle him, I was like, this feels wrong for some reason.
I think it feels wrong not because you can juggle him, but because it's too easy to do. That's the problem. Like once you juggle him,
Maybe
he can't
that's
really do anything, and then we just escape when he feels like it. and that's it. Like
Maybe that's it.
like Virgil in DMC3
Oh,
actually
geez.
played with the mechanic, and it's one of the best boss battles in the history of the genre, pretty much.
Yeah, no, Virgil in DMC3 is so good, and he's also like the last version. He is
To like
difficult.
let you combo him from free, like you really needed to know what you were doing if you wanted to combo him or you wanted to do it flawlessly, which is something I think like DMC5 is the best. It's the better example. Like it focused too much on making like the characters cool and do all these things, and now it's easy. It's a lot easier to stay in the air. It's a lot easier to jump cancel. So you can play with all this tool and all that. But the enemies don't do anything. Like you take the enemy, you put it in the air, which is extremely easy to do.
Mhm.
And you just keep it in the air, and you ray jump cancel him into oblivion, and the other enemy will not do anything because they can't really attack you in the air.
Whereas in DMC3, I still remember like if the enemy's DT, they get obviously super aggressive, but you could get knocked out of the air pretty easily. No matter, you either had to really play really good and get them really high up, or you just did short combos because the lusty would just cut you out. Or the what were the those I always forget their names. Those guys that shoot those lasers at you constantly. Everybody hates them.
Oh yeah.
Nevins, no, doesn't matter. Everybody knows which ones I'm talking
I don't remember the name either.
about. But I really like that, and I think that's also a vision thing. Like DMC is like 3 was sort of a mix between what 1 was and I think what 4 and 5 would be.
Yeah.
So it's really in the middle. It still has, I think, the best of both worlds, which I also think is why it's one of the most loved. And I still think, even though, like, if I analyze it, like a lot, if I really dive into its mechanics, I think it's not a fit. But I really liked it. Is that you couldn't bring all your weapons and styles with you. I really think that made the game better. And mostly from a design perspective, because the designers never knew what setup you would need. So they couldn't really design a boss like, here you have to use teleport, here you have to use Royal Guard. Thankfully, they still don't do that as much. Like you have like maybe what was
You
it?
have a lot of cool things you can do with every style.
You could do a lot of cool things with every style. Like I was thinking, like in 4, you have only one enemy that's sort of immune. Like you have the Blitz, and you can still work around it with Royal Guard.
It 4 and the old style at the same time design. It's not the system in and of itself, because I think that's a really good system if you implement it well.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it opens up so many options.
Like you never feel the need to like dodge and then change in Royal Guard and do a parry and then change in Gunslinger to do AoE damage. Like if a system like that was made in a game similar to Ninja Gaiden 2 or something like that with really aggressive enemy, then it would shine through, because you will start to want to use all that to engage with the enemies.
I think one thing that's also still holds it back is that the styles in DMC4 and even worse in 5 are still the styles from 3 slapped together. So like in 4, it was like, okay, you really got to make a sacrifice. Do I go for a special dodge? Do I go for more defensive options that has really strong attack, or do I go for extra combat moves, or I want to use my guns more? But now it's like, okay, I want to charge my guns. No, you got to switch to gunslinger to charge your guns. Why? Well, why does this style even exist? Like, I think it's the dual Catalina has like one attack, and the rest is on gunslinger. Like, why? And there are probably some arguments for that, because I know there's one argument for it was that the button inputs would overlap less well, I think, or something. But even then, I would be like, this is perfect to like really play with the styles, like do something unique instead of it gives you access to some different moves.
The basic stuff again around.
There was one early leak.
Charging the guns is the perfect example. Like you could easily do this without, like, you just need to keep pressing the
Just
button.
keep pressing the button. Like if you
but you actually need to do it in Gunslinger.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And one thing
but once again, that's not a problem with the system. Like it's a problem with the way it was designed. Like it was really lazily designed, especially in 4, because 4 was unfinished in every aspect.
That's why I wouldn't say lazily. I would just say rushed. Like
Yeah, no, I say lazy because they didn't really do anything to fix it in 5.
in 5 it was definitely lazy. Like I remember SBK. He called it. He said Nero's gonna get Quicksilver, and
Mhm.
Virgil's gonna get Doppelganger, and lo and behold, here we are. But there was a cool topic on GameFAQs about it. Like 1 year before DMC5 hit, like let's think of new styles for Dante, and there were so many cool ideas because one of the early leaks, which sadly was false, hinted that if Dante would switch styles, his enemies would also switch styles. So
Okay, that
you
was a
could
really interesting idea.
so the general concept would have been like if you go into sword master, you would have access to extra melee moves, but your enemies would become melee specialists.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that, I was like, they did it. They fucking did it. That's brilliant. And then nothing. and I was like, that is so cool. Why did they not do something like that? And maybe it was a mistranslation because I remember that leak actually showed Dante as he would be in the game with Sparta.
Okay.
It was a really vague image, but apparently later was true. And everything it predicted was true except that thing. So either they removed it or it was a mistranslation. I don't know, but I think that would have been really interesting because then you suddenly the enemies become important. Because I once had this discussion with Infinity. For those who know, he's a great guy, great player. Got me into Zone of the Enders, which is his monumental achievement. And we were talking about what makes. We were talking about why do action gamers like Resident Evil 4 and Metal Gear Solid 2 so much? Because they're so different. And one of the things was enemy state influence. You can, like in those games, you can do something that you can do in all the action games, but you can do it exceptionally well, is influence the state of the enemy. Like in Metal Gear Solid,
in Resident Evil 4 especially.
Especially Metal Gear 4, but also Metal Gear Solid, like you can throw them on the ground, you can choke them, you can spray them with the coolant spray to just get them to be distracted for a second. You can hold like freeze and put your hands up.
Have you actually? Sorry,
yeah?
Have you actually played Metal Gear Solid 3?
3? No,
You
only
should.
2. Yeah, I
Because
know.
it does a lot more with that stuff. Like you can use a lot of the environment and a lot of the items in creative ways to
That's
engage with the
brilliant.
enemy.
And I think DMC really should do that more because you still have the state control, but it's I think also the difficulty is not just there yet anymore because difficulty is a really easy way to sort of manipulate people to use those state controls. Because in Resident Evil, like you would shoot for the head to get the stagger or for the leg to make them trip to get space because you were getting swarmed. And in DMC, like I could technically just use Faust.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, and that's a balancing issue, obviously, because Faust is just way too good. I'm not sure if they changed it in the special edition. I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know. I don't think so though.
I know that the okay now we're entering spoiler territory about the special edition. You mind I spoil something from it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well they actually put in effort and they made a new boss fight.
Okay.
You can fight the final boss for Virgil is Dante. They made a new Dante boss, and Dante actually
that's really good.
yeah, and Dante actually uses Faust, and on I think it's already on the second highest difficulty level. That move insta kills you.
Okay, that's a really cool touch. Okay.
Yeah, and it's the same move that you can use against Virgil to one hit KO him on the highest setting in like 10 seconds. So I was like, okay, that's cute. You know, I like that. That's a neat little. I still think that's something that's so underused, and I really hate that it never really came back. Was the doppelganger fights from Ninja Gaiden? Like those were so good.
The clones in Ninja Gaiden Black, you mean?
Yeah, the clones,
Okay.
and they were also on Sigma, but they were removed and they were suddenly only placed in the co-op missions. But it's just so good. They are so fun to fight, and it's like fighting a PvP match. In Black.
It actually can teach you a lot about Ryu moveset.
Yeah, they
once they use it against you, you start to understand how broken some of the stuff is or how strong it is.
You really realize
like do some setups, even if they actually cheat a bit.
Yeah, they cheat a lot, especially which is they do cheat, but you can cheat even worse because they can't guard reset and you can, so you can just stand there and just tank everything they throw at you. But the fun thing is they'll just, okay, fuck, I'm just gonna throw you. I'm just gonna guillotine throw you. And then I'm gonna throw an incendiary shuriken at your corpse so that when you stand up, you need to make a choice if you're gonna run away, block, or jump. And if you jump, I'm gonna flying swallow your ass. They were so fun.
It was an amazing idea to have enemies use your kit and your broken stuff against you.
Yeah, which is why I think because they had that boss as well in Ninja Gaiden 3, and that one was terrible. The only thing he could do was walk towards you and do one of your free attack combos.
Okay.
And you would just wait until he finishes his combo, and then you would Izuna drop him. He would do his combo, you wait, you block, you dodge, and then, I do my Izuna drop again. There was no back and forth.
Yeah, I think that's like a general problem in design, like with like the notoriety that Dark Souls got. Like a lot of people now equate fairness to like one-on-one duels against people against the exact same thing as you, and they shouldn't really cheat. They shouldn't do anything too special because then it gets unfair and all that.
And my reply to that always is at least unfair is interesting.
Exactly. Like we need to understand that somewhere sometimes like a bit of unfairness.
My favorite fight in Dark Souls probably like mechanically speaking is the Lost Sinner on New Game Plus.
Okay.
Because he gets additional foes to help him out. Like it's a surprise. Like he just pops up and suddenly there's 2 red phantom enemies. And you're like, what the fuck is this? And sadly, of course, the combat mechanics in Dark Souls are not made for multiple character combat at all.
Yeah. And then that's the problem. Like that, then it becomes unfair because the design, the combat design, what the combat wasn't designed for that in mind. And that's the thing. Like a lot of people have this idea of unfairness in a vacuum. Like, having ads in a game is unfair, or like having a boss that counters you is unfair. And the thing is, fairness and unfairness is not something that you can analyze in a vacuum. Like it depends a lot of what you can do and what the mechanics of the game lets you do.
But and it's also, I think, a very personal matter. Like a lot of people draw the line of what's fair and unfair in different lines. Like it depends where do you draw the line when you can still blame yourself. Like you can look yourself in the mirror and say that was my bad. I made a comparison about this. It's a really old article of mine that I still need to update. But I give the example like in Vanquish. If you have you fought the final boss?
No, I actually haven't even finished the Vanquish yet.
This conversation is over. No. Okay, the final boss is 2 enemies at the same time.
Okay.
And they both have a different super attack. And if the RNG goes badly, they can do it at the same time. Now, say you are out of meter and they do these super attacks at the same time. There is physically no way that you can survive. Because you don't have the meter to dodge. Then you can still use your EMPs. Let's say you ran out. Is that unfair? And my point would be
no, because the answer is don't waste all your meter.
Exactly, but that's our answer. There's some other people might play it and say there was nothing I could do. That's unfair. So their line is in a different place. Like they put that line down much sooner than we do. We look back first and say, I made a mistake 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And you can look back like hours in the match or 5 minutes or a few seconds and say, I made a mistake there. That bit me in the ass. And it just depends on where you draw the line as a person, how much you can take, how much punishment you can take. Because I've been in that situation, literally. I wasted all my meter. I didn't have EMPs, and they did those attacks.
I think that's another thing is the difference between. I think it was Matthew Matosis that
subsequent fairness.
Initial fairness and subsequent.
He stole that from me. He stole that from me. I swear. I put it in my article. Literally, if you can go to my article, I didn't call it like that, but I called it something like something that is initially unfair, can become fair if you play it again, because now you know that's
Exactly.
going to happen. Like,
Like some things are unfair initially and then become fair every other time because you know it's coming.
you know what's going to happen. And I
And I think
remember I was so pissed when Matthew did that in a fun way, because I was like, he explains it so much better than I did. And he gives it a good term, like subsequent fairness. Like, that's brilliant. Fuck.
that's a really good term, actually.
Yeah. It's perfect. And it's really recognizable. Like, there's
a lot of genres. I think going a bit off topic here, but one of the best genre it applies to is roguelikes, like traditional roguelikes. Like a lot of the things in roguelikes are on face value kind of unfair.
Yeah.
That is an example is in Adam, Ancient Domain of Mysteries.
I
There
haven't
is
played that.
a point in the dungeon where you fight a banshee. The first time you fight him, you have no idea what he can do, and the thing he can do is he can shout and instantly kill you.
Okay.
And that can appear a lot like really unfair, because how should I know that the banshee could instantly kill me? Is every other time it stops being unfair because you know she can do that, and you can prepare for that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the systems in that game works to make you prepare to the different things like this. So you don't have a single answer, you have a lot of answers, so it becomes fair because of that. Like you can do it in a lot of different way. In the specific, you can you can kill bees in part of the dungeon. They drop wax that you can use to shut your ears, or you can explode something near you so that the blast temporarily deafens you.
That's really cool.
So it creates something that was initially unfair, and it can be frustrating, especially in a roguelike, when if you die you need to start all over again. It actually creates depth, thanks to the system and the way the game is designed to accommodate that depth.
I do think that this is a slippery slope, because on the one hand, I think it's really cool, but I like to bring a really famous example into the mix: the evil within. The evil within. The evil within
Never
is
played it.
okay. The evil within is basically, a lot of people. This is a bit of a side tag, but a lot of people thought it would be like Resident Evil 4. It wasn't. It was a completely different game. Like mechanically, everything is different. It's really good, by the way. Just have to throw that out there. But what that game does, it has a lot of insta-kill traps.
Okay.
And a lot of insta-kill moves as well. From there can be, you can walk into a room because it's a horror game, and like this demon lady will crawl out of the floor, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And the game will always allow you to kill everything. Like, you can kill her right there and then, but she has so much HP that unless you were properly prepared, it's better to just run away. If she grabs you, you're dead. If you stand next to her, you're dead. If you walk to the left instead of the right, you're dead. And then it slowly becomes to the point. A lot of people found the game frustrating, because the first time, it's basically, when you play it, it's like a one giant tutorial to learn what to expect and how to play the game. And then the second time you play it, then it gets interesting because now you know. And you saw this as well with Mirror's Edge. The first time you play it, I hated that game because I just kept falling, jumbling, and then fell again. And where do I need to go? That door? Like, I didn't have the flow because I didn't know where to go and what route to take. And then on the second playthrough, I now know. I know where the enemies are. I know what route to take. I know when to jump and when to crawl and everything. And then suddenly it gets good. But I think there's a really a slippery slope when you do it too much, players will just stop playing, because let's say every boss has something like a banshee, like an insta kill move. So the first time you play it, it's like, new boss. Okay, I'm probably gonna die.
Yeah.
Because he's probably gonna do something I have no idea. So like a gotcha, like haha, gotcha. And this is sort of what Souls games, I feel, are doing a bit, like especially Sekiro. Like Sekiro was constantly like, just gotcha. Like, here's a boss. You beat the boss. Okay, here's another phase with a completely different move set, and this move kills you instantly because the timing is slightly different. Gotcha. And then next time you know. But if you just keep doing that, you're like, Jesus Christ, I hate this game.
Yeah, you shouldn't really no, you shouldn't abuse it. Like
Yeah,
if you abuse it, it also depends on the genre. Like in roguelikes, it works because like
yeah, but the whole play
the
is
entire
replay.
genre is based around like discovering the game, and you're not really expected to beat it the first time or the
No.
first 100th time you play the game.
Have you played Hades? I heard that one's really good. I haven't played
No, I didn't.
it. I think
But mhm. But
that.
Hades is a bit of a roguelite more than a traditional roguelike.
Okay. I think the only ones I played are
Mhm.
FTL,
Okay.
because I'm a massive Star Trek fan, so I had a Star Trek mod installed for it,
Okay.
and Binding of Isaac.
Okay, so all roguelites pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess of a definition, but
Okay.
it's a terrible term. They're both
Okay.
terrible terms, but there are roguelikes which are like traditional roguelikes, which are turn-based RPG, grid-based, non-modal, and all that stuff. Like they are literally like Rogue.
Okay.
And then there are roguelites that are based on the permadeath aspect and all that, but mechanically are different. Like they are action games or strategy games,
Yeah.
or so Binding of Isaac is the perfect example. Like it does all the procedural generation, permadeath, and all that, but
I, I
it's
think
an
that,
action game pretty much.
I think the fun. I think that's also a bit because for me the fun part about those games was I could just replay them infinitely. Like they always stay interesting. I
Like,
always wished.
like stuff like that works in that type of games, like
uh,
insta and all that stuff, because
Did,
you are expected to replay the game over and over again and
yeah.
learn by doing.
Did you play Bloodborne?
Yeah,
Like the chalices for me, I was really hoping that would be like a roguelike.
yeah, that
That
and
was such a wasted
it
concept.
has an element of that, but it isn't really expanded.
It's still pretty cool that there's still a community for that called the Tomb Seekers, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and their entire concept is we just go through every chalice imaginable to find content. And they have found a lot of stuff. Like they found two unique enemies that are
Okay.
not in the main game that are only there. One of them is really unique, and one of them is like a reskin.
Mm-hmm.
And they found some weird gems and stuff. It's really, really fun. Sometimes I just pop in and see if there's any new discoveries, basically. But it's really cool that they just keep exploring the content of the game.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I had no
Yeah.
idea it was a community like focused on the Chalice Dungeon thing.
Yeah, but the Souls community is like, I give them a lot of shit because there's also a lot of toxicity there. But
We all
like,
do.
they all do, especially the bigger they get. But like, if you go to the niche stuff, like, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. The
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Tomb Seekers or the Tomb Kings. No, that's Warhammer. Something with Tomb.
Okay. No, it's a really
No,
cool thing. I had no idea there was a community like that.
yeah, but that's a really good game, by the way. It was actually sometimes I still watch. Like, I don't know if you recognize that, but the older you get, the more I watch people play games than
Mm.
that I play them myself. Like I'll be cooking dinner and be like, oh, let me just watch this random guy play Bloodborne.
Yeah, yeah, I do that all the
Pre-
time. Like,
preferably without commentary, because then it's always like this cringy stuff.
but it depends on the commentary.
Yeah, that's true. I'm old school. I grew up with Bick, like Bick Benedict.
Uh-huh.
That guy's a gem.
Like that's the type of commentary I like the like stuff that comes from people that are really experienced of the game and
Yeah.
explain what they're doing and why are they doing it and all the little mechanics and all that.
But
And
I also like Bick that he was like, how to say this politely, like if you look at the top players, like they'll talk at such a high level and they expect so much that you already know. So and they use really advanced tactics, so you can't really use the video. But
okay,
Vic was always a middle level. So what was really cool about his videos, I could grab his video content, and he usually used strategies that were also really available for newcomers. So
okay,
if you were new at like let's say Dante's Inferno, I could link his video to like a complete newbie and say like, here, this is how you can solve that fight, and it would be a very optimal, easy to execute tactic instead of I don't know someone stuck on a DMC boss and I link them in Dunguri video and they'll be like, what the fuck is this? You know, I think Big Oros really did that well.
Going back to the fact that a lot of people like we need to make we don't need it actually, but we should make action game a bit more accessible if we want like to understand, not to play. Like I don't wanna like make them easier on dumbing down, but understand how to play it. And I think like the community effort is one of the most important thing. Like finding stuff like Big Benedict or tutorials online explaining I think about JTB and what he did for Ninja Gaiden Black. And all that. I think it's really, really important because
I think it's really important. I also think it's because I really like JTB's content, but I always think his content is way too long. And which, in one sense, I really appreciate because it's super in depth. But for instance, there's this really small guide video. It's about Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2. It's 5 minutes, and he explains everything. And like that, and you can just show it to someone. This is how you play Ninja Gaiden. And it's from Lance. He's a really swell dude. I hope he's still okay. But it's just for Sigma 2, but you can use it for any game in the series because the mechanics are universal. And I just love that kind of stuff. I also love JTB stuff. Like sometimes he has this video on movement in Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Fantastic. Like it taught me so many things I never knew, especially because it transfers to Ninja Gaiden 2 and 3. It's fantastic. I really like that community aspect. I really, in one hand, I kind of miss the day of, and that's what I kind of want with Stinger. Its form at least. It's a little niche corner of the internet.
Okay.
Whereas, like, if you go to like a Reddit right now, it's just swarmed, you know. But I really miss that feeling. Like the first time I went to back then was Iberian's Realm.
Okay.
It was still alive, but it was just before death. I visited it once, and I really felt like, oh, this is like the secret book club, you know. Yeah. Like the secret club where this is where the veterans come together and they talk shop, and you go for your talks like, holy shit, I didn't even know this was possible. Yeah, and
I think that's one of the most important thing for games in general, like this sense of a community.
Yeah, but I think away from a centralized hub, like
away from the centralized, like a more niche, tight-knit group.
Yeah, no subreddit, no GameFAQs page, no Twitter.
Like focused on like learning and talking about the mechanics and all of the specific stuff, not about all the
not the memes,
not the
not about the story, not
story,
about, just pure gameplay, and I really love that.
And I can actually relate to that because it's something that it happened to me with our Italian community back in when Monster Hunter Freedom Unite came out. Because I started with Freedom 1 and I really didn't understand the game, and then I found out this like forum. It was called Monster Hunter for Fun, and it was this like niche Italian community of people that really, really, really loved the game, and they had all these like guides and all these things about how should I approach this specific monster and how should I do that, and it really, really made me fall in love with the series. Nice. And I think most of the love I have for action games and for difficult games in general comes from that, like from that sense of, okay, there is a lot more in a game that I didn't see, like a lot more mechanics, a lot more things that I had no idea were there.
And the beauty is it needs a special forum. Like how many games do you know that have their own like dedicated forum that's still active? Like Ninja Gaiden still, the Ninja Gaiden realm still
Ninja
exists.
Gaiden forum pretty much it.
It's like that site, though it has switched owners 3 times. It's been around for technically what 20 years, 15
Probably.
years.
Probably.
That's I'm already happy Stinger's been around for 2 now. I can't imagine like 20 years. Holy shit, that's beautiful. Like my biggest memory about that was Smogon.
Oh yeah, okay.
But more the competitive side of things, and that was just just competitive talk every day, like about different Pokemon setups for a really high level Pokemon play, which I
Yeah.
found
No, I remember that times. Like
so those guys
it
going
actually
deep.
was one of the earliest sites I visited once I learned like English.
Yeah.
And I learned
Wow.
English, and I was searching around for Pokemon stuff, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and I found out this sites, Smogum, and they explain all this stuff that I had no idea was in Pokemon, like all the EV and IV
Oh
system,
yeah. Oh yeah. And the EVs.
scene, and all that, and I had no idea Pokemon was that. For me, Pokemon was like get your favorite Pokemon and beat the league 500 times. That's
Yeah.
what
Exactly. And for me, it was even like, what? This move doesn't deal any damage. This move is trash.
exactly.
Yeah.
I vividly remember like having 18 moves like sword dance and all that, because
Yeah.
it doesn't do damage. Why should I use it? It doesn't do
Should I
damage.
use it? And I
And,
still
and, and I had like I remember in Sapphire I had a Blaziken with like close combat and a flamethrower and fire blast and all that, all
yeah,
this
all the
big
typical
attack that
moves.
did a lot of damage.
Yeah, just I still remember there was an app called BattleNet, I think it was
Mm-hmm.
called, and you can then make your own Pokemon team and play online on the computer against other players.
Oh, okay. So like Showdown.
Not sure what Showdown is.
It's pretty much that. It's a Pokemon simulator when you can play online with other people.
Oh yeah, basically that. But then in 2006, 7,
Okay.
and I remember I made my team and I went online and there was this enemy. He used a Baton Pass
Oh
combo.
wow. Okay.
And I was like, what the fuck is like? I can't kill this guy. And then I got trained by some guy in Iraq. He was playing there, and we were talking, and he was giving me tips and teaching me combos. But this game is fucking deep. Like it's like chess. So then I dive into those communities, and I still have very fond memories of stuff like that, like really niche games, and just
Mm-hmm.
you and 20 other people. You get to know each other. You talk about stuff. It's sort of a sidetrack, but DC used to have that. You had a DC Comics. They had a subforum for every character they had,
Okay.
and I was a big fan of the Batman forums. And there was like 20, 30 guys, and we would discuss like every release really in depth. Like we would go into the backlog, scan older comics for reference and stuff. And there was one guy, he came from Egypt, and there was like the protests and stuff, and he got and everybody was really like, hey, how you going, man? How's everything over there? And no moderator touched that stuff because it was just a small forum. And then sadly, DC closed the forums because right now you can just comment on our Facebook posts, you know. And
I think that's a big issue. Like, it's not that community like this, like that, still exists. Like these niche, passionate groups. The problem is that it's not centralized anymore
no,
on a
there's no.
forum or on a site, and it's really unless you are in the know and you know someone from that community, it's really difficult to find, because
Like,
everything is, or almost everything is in Discord,
there's
and
a
it's really difficult to find. Like
if it's
in
hard, how can you how would you find Ninja Gaiden Realm
yeah.
without you or me telling you? Like I remember there's this video from the
And back
best.
then you just
Huh?
search for name of the game forum,
Uh-huh.
and you will find a lot of forums
But
and a lot of
I'm kind of
specific.
curious. I'm kind of curious right now what would happen if I would Google Ninja Gaiden forum. Let me. Okay. Oh wow, Ninja Gaiden NG Realm is actually at the top. No
See,
joke.
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, it was a lot easier to find communities, even if you weren't really into the game. Just for curiosity's sake, you just searched around for, okay, let me search if some other people are playing Monster Hunter, and you will search Monster Hunter forum, and you will find a lot of this niche community
And
passionate
now
about
it's
it.
out. Now it's only one, and the rest is a subreddit.
Unless you know someone, like you know a streamer, or you know someone in the community that can actually give you a link, or it's
But
really hard to find.
and that's why I still there's one review that
Mm-hmm.
certain YouTuber make that I still think that I'm still split about. It's a review on Ninja Gaiden Black by a certain guy from England. And like his review was terrible. I'm just gonna say that out of the box. I think it was absolutely garbage. But one of his points that he makes up is like, who are these people that play Ninja Gaiden? Because all the Devil May Cry boys, they're like chilling on the subreddit or on Twitter, and Ninja Gaiden's like, are they ninjas as well? Where the fuck are they? And then I was like, yeah. Now that you mention it, like some of them are on the Stinger, some of them are on the GameFAQs forum, like the old one, like the GameFAQs Ninja Gaiden 2 forum, which has like one active post. And some of them are NG Realm, some of them are on YouTube. Like they're spread around.
Yeah, exactly. It's not centralized anymore.
You can't just like get common knowledge like, oh yeah, you just got to go to JTB, you know?
Yeah.
And then you get then you find out how to actually do Flying Swallow, Charlie. That's
yeah, I remember that point.
Oh my god, he was so pissy about it too. Like he dedicated like 10 minutes in his second review going back like, but I want to talk about that Flying Swallow stuff again. I'm like, oh my god, he's never going to drop this, is he?
Like, yeah, I think that's like the biggest problem is that it's not centralized anymore.
Yeah.
And like Discord and everything is a great tool to create communities. The thing is, with forum, it was a lot easier to centralize all the information in a specific place, and you could go even if no one was active anymore. You could go there and find these threads of like
veterans talking.
Of people talking about all the discovery they made about the games. You could see how specific part of the games evolved, like Karma in Gaiden. You could see all these like old Karma run that are now pretty much useless because
they had old strategies. But I think that's why I'm so sad.
Yeah, exactly. You could see how all this strategy evolved and how people discovered new stuff.
I think that's what is still a shame that like old GameFAQs, they had an automated system that would delete topics if they were this and that old. They switched it off, but that was terrible. And Iberians is gone, and a lot of people, they weren't angry because they lost content. Like videos that were on there, they were angry because the discussions were gone.
Yeah, they lost knowledge. Like, that's the point.
All the tech, and it's super hard to centralize. I remember Godhand has the Godhand Bible, which you can find on GameFAQs, and somebody then made another version, but that one was hosted on Eurogamer, but that is now shut down, that subpage, so you can't access it anymore. So
exactly,
all that information gets lost, and that's still also why I'm a bit nervous because Stinger's forum is hosted on like one of these free forum websites. And I'm super nervous that one day I'm just going to wake up and I get an email from the company and say, yeah, we quit. It's all gone.
Yeah, you should probably back something up.
Yeah, I have backups. But the downside is it's kind of a criminal organization. They kind of hold your data hostage. Like I can get a download file that has all the text, but if I want to put it in like a BNB forum, a PHP forum or BB board, I need to pay them money.
Okay.
Like ridiculous amounts of money. So I'm still looking into that.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff in that forum. And that's the problem. Like I think, like with the death of the forum has been the death of centralized communities. Like now you need to find a specific Discord that is not easy to find unless you ask someone for it. And even then, a lot of the information is volatile in Discord. Like you can pin stuff, but it's not really useful. So if you want to find something, you need to ask again someone.
But you see the same with YouTube, and I think one of the biggest dangers now also is this. Like for instance, you saw this with Metal Gear Rising, and Metal Gear Rising is probably the one game in the world where I can still say that at one point I was the best. But you could look up, if you were going to look up quality Metal Gear Rising videos, like how to play Metal Gear Rising, the first thing you would find is someone doing an S rank run with 10 million views, and he plays like garbage. Like from a technical, so you get bad lessons.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah,
because the algorithm pushes that forward. Whereas if you go to a forum, it's like, no, don't look at that.
And that's the thing with having not centralized knowledge, is that when you are not knowledgeable about the game, you don't know if the guy is playing well or not.
No, you don't. This guy is probably the best because he's got the S rank and
he's got the S rank, so he must play.
And 2 million views, so he's got to be good.
And that's the problem. Like, speaking about forums, though, why? I'm curious. Why did you start Stinger? What made you say, okay, I wanna create like a site specializing in action games, and I wanna create a forum about
it? It actually started out of frustration, and not because of journalists, but I was really active on GameFAQs because I still think it's the best gaming forum there is because it's just so unfiltered.
Yeah.
Which has upsides and downsides. But what I got tired of constantly making the same explanations. Like, I would be talking to a lot of people, and sometimes, like, for instance, what's depth and what's complexity? Why are enemies so important? And I would type that out, like really long replies. And eventually I got tired of typing the same thing twice. So I would save them on my desktop as like a text file, so I could just copy and paste. Like, every time we had the discussion with someone, I just, oh, here we go again. Let me just paste this. And later I thought, wouldn't it be handy if I just had a website where I could put these pastes so I can just, instead of reply to someone, I could just say, here's the link, go read, bitch, and call it a day. And I never did that because I was too busy with work and stuff. I had a really busy job. And during my job, I was given, actually, that has nothing to do with it. Okay, basically, I did my job, and I had this script that I was working on. Not a really script, but a reply, like, what? Because we kept getting that discussion that God of War doesn't have depth.
Okay.
And DMC does. Like, that was a really popular discussion on every forum I was on. And I was thinking, like, okay, but what's depth? What's complexity? When is a game complex? When is a game deep? What's the difference? And why does someone use depth in that way and the other one depth in that way? Like, everybody had a different meaning for it. So I was writing an article on it, like just a text to explain for myself and research it, but I barely put time into it. And then a very pivotal thing happened in my life. I lost my job.
Okay.
And in a really bad time, because it was a few months before my wife moved in with me.
Oh, okay.
I lost my job, and I decided, okay, I need to start looking for work. And thankfully, I managed to get a job pretty fast.
Okay, that's good.
But I also was like, I can't look for a job 24/7. So I thought, okay, if there's something I want to do it now. And a few months before that, I was playing Devil's Third. And Devil's Third, for those that don't know, it's from Itagaki. It's a really weird experimental game that wasn't finished at all and was actually pretty bad, but it had redeeming qualities. And I still remember, I was in a bus. My girlfriend, she was asleep, and I was just thinking, why does everybody hate Devil's Third? And like, I was thinking about the reviews, and like, everybody says about the graphics, about the it looks like shit, it runs terrible. And I was thinking, like, okay, yeah, I agree, but I don't really care about that stuff. Why do I think it's bad? Or at least not great. And I was putting it into words for myself, like, this is actually pretty interesting. Like, because one of my key points was definitely Devil's Third has a good combat system, but it constantly puts you against enemies that require a ranged fight.
Okay.
So, but they give you melee weapons.
Combat.
Yeah, it doesn't play into the combat. So if you want to survive, you just got to stand behind cover and shoot all day. But the most fun way to play is to run in there, use attacks, smash them into walls and stuff like that. But you die in like 2 hits. And I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to make a review for it. Show those reviewers who's boss. And I really wanted to review the game for Hardcore 101, I think it's called. It's a video gaming website. Hardcore Gaming 101, something like that. And I really looked up to them. I really felt they had good articles at the time. Right now, I'm not have that big of an opinion of them anymore.
Yeah, we are on the same page on that one.
yeah, I used to feel they were really good, but lately, now that I'm writing more, I'm like, okay. Especially after what happened with that translator, I think that was really bad.
Yeah, that's what's the tipping point, pretty much.
Yeah. Anyway, that aside, I wanted to post it there, but they had a rule: you could not use other screenshots. You had to make your own. I was like, I'm not going to do that. Okay, let me post it to GameFAQs, because GameFAQs also has a review section, and my review got rejected. And I was like, oh my god. Okay, what do I do now? And then I was like, you know what? I still have a blog spot, which is like this free
Oh
form.
wow, Blogspot. Okay, that
Yeah,
was
yeah. I have a blog spot that I need to have for the
that were
Artican,
the times.
though it still exists.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. If you
Okay.
want, you can go to stingermagazine.blogspot.com,
Oh my god, okay.
and then you find the original website. It's still there. It is with the new design, but I still have that blog spot. I just put all my articles that I made for the Art Academy studies to hidden. I schemed together a quick logo. I might still have it somewhere. And I just posted it there. And it was the first review. It was terrible. Like, it was so many typing mistakes. But I just posted. I really enjoy doing it, and then I just send it to all my gaming buddies. Like, hey, I made this. What do you think about it? And they're like, oh, it's pretty cool. You know, everybody said like the writing is pretty good, but your grammar is terrible. And I was like, yeah, I try, and and then I just started typing about games I was playing. Like, the first few articles were about DMC4 Special Edition, because that just came out. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna talk about Ninja Gaiden, and I wrote all those reviews and that, like, the analyses of every game, and it got a lot of traction. People liked it. I was like, I really am enjoying doing this. And I was talking with Birdman a lot. Like, some people that join the forum, like, this might be a bit of an insider thing, but that join the forum might sometimes think that we really don't like each other. Like, we're constantly trash talking each other. Why don't you play what I want you to play? But
yeah, but that's banter. It's normal.
It's banter. Like, we've known each other for, it must be 10, 15 years now.
Oh,
like,
wow.
On GameFAQs, at least. Even worse, SBK. I probably know him for 20 years. Like, half my life, I've been talking to that guy in GameFAQs. And I still don't even know what their real names are. That's actually I don't need to know either. I once asked SBK, and I said, "What's your name?" Actually, he said, "The Law." He just showed me the clip of Judge Dredd. I was like, "Oh, that's brilliant." And I kept talking to Birdman, and I really gotta give him thanks. He really pushed me to, because Birdman really wanted something like this. He really wanted a site where action games was centralized, and where there was a forum where you could talk shop, like, about obscure action games. And
yeah, the guy is really, really passionate about action game. You can see it on
everything. And like, I just pitched to him like, hey, this is an article I'm working on. What do you think? He's like, keep it up. And then one day I said, I'm thinking about a forum. He's like, do it. I'll be member number one. And like, for like, I think half a year, it was like the Raeng and Birdman forum. we were just there, the two of us, just talking about action games and trash talking people on about GameFAQs. And then one guy popped up, Gabe, and he was like searching God hand images, and by some accident, because he looked for a God hand image, found my website. And he joined the forum, and then suddenly it just kept growing, and people like you and people like Greg and Headphone, Jerison, who's not really active anymore right now, Infinity, like, everybody I talked to, I said, hey, why don't you go to the forum? Like, then we can talk easier. And then I really started having fun. Like, the website for me is important, but the forum for me is the most, like, I check it like once every hour, and every time I see a post, I'm like, oh, cool. You know, people are talking. Sometimes I don't join the conversation because, like, I can't really add anything here. But I'm just really happy every time I see a new member. I think we have like 60 something now, and I think 10 are always active. That's brilliant for me. And the website for me,
it's a great place. Like, honestly, it's a great place. It's full of passionate people, and it's full of people that really, really want to talk about action games.
Nice.
Really,
that makes me so happy here, man. Seriously, because that's what I wanted it to be. And the site itself, it slowly sort of also evolved into how to say, like, I don't have a writer background, but I work a lot with writers in my job.
Okay.
And their job is to like listen to clients, and they like the clients have a pitch or a new vision or a new product, and they give all that information to us, and we filter it into a script and an animation or an infographic or something. And they really taught me how to write analytically and what's
Okay.
important. How do you communicate?
Yeah, that's really, really hard to learn, actually.
And
How to communicate, especially complex things to people.
Suddenly, for some reason, Siri, what I said triggered Siri next to me. but actually, it's not that hard. Like, the one thing I really liked that they taught me was don't talk in conclusions. Let your reader get the conclusion themselves. Then it's much stronger.
Okay.
So, for instance,
that's really good advice, actually.
What I noticed was, if you look at Kotaku or any YouTube reviewer, like, they start with a conclusion immediately. Let me just let's say they review Painkiller. Oh, you'll certainly need painkillers for this game. You know, they like that's how they start, like a zinger. And then you're like, okay, if you agree with that zinger, then you stay for the review. And if you're like, no, Painkiller is the best game ever made, shut up, then you leave. And then the rest is like, the combat's really bad because. And instead, what I found is really interesting is that you just describe the combat, and then I let you decide, is that okay for you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why in the Devil's Third review, the first one, I just analyzed, like, okay, the game runs really bad or runs slow, it has lag. And I then don't end with a conclusion that says, so that's really bad. Like, I can live with it. I mean, I play Ninja Gaiden 2. Like, lag is completely normal terrain for me. So I think I really found it fun to write and get better at writing. And I also really enjoyed learning. Like, when I played Ninja Gaiden, I didn't really know a lot about its development, but when I wanted to write the article, I started reading about it. I was like, wow, like, all this stuff that went on and behind the background, how that went, how the design was put together. And then I started doing interviews with some players. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, going in the background of the game is really, really interesting. Like, a lot of people don't even know who made the game.
Yeah, but also like the development stories behind it, like what I told you about
about Itagaki and all that.
Yeah, Itagaki
or about Kamiya in arcade games and all that stuff.
Fantastic! That stuff makes it so much more interesting, and I always like that about in the older video.
I think it's something that is needed, like, because a lot of people right now, like, think that games are art, and they are. Like, they are not. They are another art medium.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, no one talks about them like they are art. Like, they never really explain the history behind the game and beyond the people that made it.
I actually had a really good discussion, not really a discussion, a short talk with Dan about it. He's also on Stinger, and we were talking about what does it mean to be analytical. Why are some people analytical and some people aren't? And eventually, just the pure conclusion we drew is time. Some people want to invest time into learning what's going on behind what they're talking about, and other people just make a flat assertion. Like, if you look at world's best video game reviewer, the Gaming Brit Show, like, that guy, he just plays the game once and then he gives his opinion on it. He doesn't read anything on he doesn't even do a basic Wikipedia search. Which for me makes his reviews basically pointless, because he just makes general gibberish. Like, did you even read anything? Like, did you just do a basic Google search? No, okay. So that's a bad analysis for me. I really like to shit on him for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, I don't know. I really like that aspect of it, of just analyzing, going into the history, what's going on. Why? Sorry. One more thing is why. Why is the why? Why? Like, if you go to like a video game like Ninja Gaiden, why is the incendiary ninja so dangerous? What was their idea? Because a lot of people just say it's bad game design, or they were lazy. And if you're working with a team of like 100 to 200 people on the game for like 4 years straight, everything has a reason. I'm curious what it is. So then you can speculate, like, why did they do this? What were they literally? What were they thinking
The problem is that there's not a lot of information about that, especially with like more niche Japanese game.
True, but you can sort of look for patterns. Like with Itagaki, if you read his interviews, he's really about reactionary gameplay. That's his niche. That's why, for instance, now I'm going to make a conclusion for him. Like in his interviews, he says that he really likes that reaction. That if you press a button, you immediately get a result.
Mm-hmm.
What is one of the key aspects of his games in Dead or Alive is the hold, that you can counter. Counter is reactionary. So then you already get it. You make a connection between a gameplay mechanic that he made and something he said. And then you can look further in his games like, okay, well, Ninja Gaiden, what's reactionary about that? Okay, that's why there's so many enemies, maybe, because you constantly have to react to what's going on instinctively. You don't have enough time to really sit back and think like, okay, I'm going to do this now. So in that way, you can sort of make small, connections and assumptions. And that's sometimes also dangerous because you can make a really bad assumption, which I have done.
Of course. Like you need to be careful with that.
You need to be careful, but I think there's plenty of
part of analyzing any medium in general. Like even with like most of the stuff like we take for granted with books, like with messages and all that. Yeah. Maybe it wasn't true. Maybe like the author just wanted to write about a big white whale.
There is something. There is a beautiful example, and I hate that I don't remember the title of the book. But there's a book. And there's probably someone listening to this that's like, of course it's that book. And halfway through the story, and I'm probably going to butcher this again, one of the characters is lifted up by the wind and disappears. It's a sort of a like we call it a roman, but it's a romantic novel, not like romance, but you know what I mean. And it's high literature, and there are people that have done their thesis about it. Like, because it's a really realistic book, and suddenly halfway through the story, the character floats away, and they're all like, what does it mean? And eventually there's an interview where two scholars that have dedicated a part of their life to that book get to sit with the author, and they ask him, what is the meaning behind it? Why does the character float away and never comes back in the book? And he said, well, I was writing the book, and I really fucking hated that character, and I really wanted to write her out. So I just decided, you know what? Wind's gonna pick her up. She's gone. And you see, like the faces of those writers, and they go in denial. They're like, no, you have no idea what you're talking about. And he's like, I'm the fucking writer. I wrote the book, and I think that's also beautiful. You see that happen with Kojima a lot. Like people, they praise him, and everything he does is flawless. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly he says, Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes, is how I envision Metal Gear Solid 1. And everybody's like, Kojima's a fucking hack. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Shut up, Kojima, you're senile.
That's like the danger. Let's say you go when you start to analyze something. Like you never 100% sure that the author intended that.
Exactly. And that's
the beauty.
But that's the beauty. Exactly. Like, trying to analyze it, and you've got to make some mistakes, but sometimes you really find something that you're like, yeah, no, I get it. Like there's one sentence that I really like to describe Ninja Gaiden 2 with is, the game is about dying slower than your enemies. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, you know, and that's not something that I made up, but that's something that someone else came with, and it's like something that he made based on analyses on gameplay that he did, but also interviews that he watched that made him give that conclusion. Mm-hmm. And there's a ton of bad conclusions about the game, but there's also a couple of good ones. But yeah, to get back to your original point, why Stinger? I really liked analyses, and I also must admit I was getting really frustrated by game reviewers at that time, especially because they just play a game once. Mm-hmm. And I was reading reviews like, yeah, this is so surface level. Like,
exactly. You review especially with action games, you need to really go deep in it.
There's a review of God of War 2018, and he complains that the shield is useless, like the shield moveset. Well,
yeah, there's a similar thing with Wonderful 101. Like the guy thinks the pudding parry thing.
Yeah.
It's completely useless. Like, okay,
it's like
one of the best moves in the games, but okay.
It took us one day to figure out that move was broken, you know. And I think and I've also been guilty with that, because I remember Neo came out and I was like, okay, this is my time. Neo just came out, action games, Team Ninja. This is my zone. I'm gonna review that game the day it comes out. And I managed, through some shady methods, to get the game 3 days early. And I played it. I rushed through it. I wrote the review, and it was terrible. Like I made so many bad assumptions about the game because I rushed through. I made
especially in a game like Neo that really need to
really
understand.
deep. Like the game's been, how old is it now? 3-4 years, and we still probably haven't scratched the surface. Especially now that Neo 2 has come out, nobody will. But it like.
There actually are a couple of people that really are really deep into the rabbit hole.
But see, that's what, and those people can tell you stuff that I would never have grasped back then. And that's what I sort of set out, was I'm only going to review a game from now on. That's the promise I made to me back then. If I finish it on all difficulties, do a challenge run, and maybe finish it a couple of more times. Like minimum.
That's a good philosophy.
And
like maybe,
and then I'm going to talk to someone in the community
who really knows this stuff now.
Who really knows this stuff. And sometimes, like, I send my article or my notes to someone in that community, like, hey, am I on track here? Like, do you agree with this? Sometimes we get a discussion, and then I'm just gonna say, fuck you. It's my side. I do what I want. But it really gives you a big perspective. Like, if I would have reviewed Ninja Gaiden 2, like when I just first played it, it would be a completely different review. And now I really analyze it because I have the knowledge, and I can also reflect, like, okay, it took me a long time to get into it. Why is that?
I thought that's a problem with like the system we have now. Like, most people want stuff day one, and so you can't really, you don't have the time to invest.
There's a comment about that. It's from a musician.
But it's a really, your philosophy is really good on that stuff. Like, maybe you don't need to really do a challenge run and all that, but
I feel with challenge runs, sometimes you get to see the mechanics in their best light or their worst light. Like, you sort of see, for
really
instance,
understand how the game works when you can't use half of the kit.
Yeah, but for instance, Samurai Jack, I tried a no upgrade run. It was so boring. Like, because everything is hidden behind upgrades. So eventually I just decided, like, okay, this is a problem, because and then you sort of start realizing, it is really a problem in the game, that your upgrades decide your playstyle and what you can do, and how effective you can deal with bosses and how many options you have. But it's so locked behind so many options and so many upgrade paths and also upgrade materials. It's a bad system. And you realize that more when it's even like enlarged by a no upgrade run.
Challenge runs can teach you a lot about the game, about the design behind the.
But there's a comment from a musician one time. He said like, I released my album, and there was a review in like a day. And he said, how can you review a music album in a day? But he said that there's so many nuances to the album, the connections between the songs, the lyrics, in relation to my other albums, blah, blah, blah. How can you review that in a day? And then you really go back. I talked to a reviewer once. He was from a Dutch magazine, a Dutch gaming magazine. And he said, usually we just play the game for like 4 hours to just know what we're talking about. And then we go into a Discord where all the other reviewers are, and we just exchange notes, some videos from streamers and stuff, so we can just talk around it, and then we just finish the review because it needs to be done in time. We don't have time to finish every game.
That's what I say. Like, the problem is with the system. Like, even if you want to do something like that and you write for the major publication, you can't really do that, because everything needs to be ready for day one, because people want to know what the game is about.
And people don't read reviews. I think that's
they read scores.
They read scores. Like, one of the biggest feedbacks I keep getting from a website is, why don't you have a score at the end? Like, the entire point of the site is that you read. Is like, if I'm going to end with a conclusion that says Ninja Gaiden is a 10 out of 10, on what scale, on what metric, and that's there's also a really big problem that I see in a lot of other reviews. Like, I don't know what game it was. I think it was a call. No, it wasn't Call of Duty. I think it was Dead Space or something. Like that's. I think it was Dead Space 3. The entire review was terrible. Like he kept trash talking the game. Like the graphics are bad, the AI is bad, and then suddenly the conclusion, despite all its shortcomings, Dead Space 3 really holds up beyond its predecessors. 9.5 out of 10. What? What? There's like this emotional switch all of a sudden, like, and you see this so many times. I don't like the guy, but there's a really good video from, I think his name is Dunkey.
Yeah, he did exactly that.
About
that about games reviews.
Yeah, like that video is so on the mark, and I think one thing.
One of his best videos.
It's the only video of him I've watched. I gotta admit, but there's one thing that I really hold personal, and that's something I do with all my work as well, and also my drawings. Is I always try to keep one person in mind that I make my content for, and Stinger Magazine, in the end of the day, is made for me. So I am picturing myself as the perfect audience.
Okay.
So I
something I want to do because I want to do it.
No. It's like I'm imagining my target audience as me. So
okay.
if I write an article, like I'll write it in a way that I think like I would enjoy reading someone writing an article that way. And the website also has features that I would appreciate in that kind of website. So it has a forum. It doesn't have advertisement because I fucking hate advertisement. I block it anyway, so I'm not going to put that there. And for me, that's a really good method of making stuff. I also do it with my YouTube. Like I don't like commentary. I don't like large 30-minute videos. It's just like short clips. That's why I just make short clips. I think that's a really good method.
No, that's a good method. Like do something that you would like to see.
Yeah, exactly. And then
which is similar to what I'm doing really, because this
don't do that if you want to make money.
This podcast project is pretty much that. Like
podcast, that good example.
I didn't find, and I said, okay, let me do it. Let me try and do it.
Exactly that.
No, it's a great philosophy. Okay, so it has been more than 2 hours at this point.
Oh, really? Jesus.
So,
were there any questions you had on your list that we haven't covered yet?
No, pretty much we talk about anything, pretty much about everything. Some minor stuff, nothing too important. So it was fun.
Yeah,
thank you
really.
Thank you for being the 0th guest.
Always Roy the Zero.
So thank you.
No problem. I really enjoy it. I always like talking action stuff and just video games in general. I didn't expect to be talking about this much about Pokemon.
So yeah, I'm really happy you enjoyed it. Like,
no problem. You did a good job as a host.
Thank you. Like, it's the first time I do something like this, so I still need to learn.
No, it's fine. Where are you? I'm curious. Where are you gonna host it? Are you gonna?
Probably on YouTube for now, and then we'll see.
Nice. Send me a link. I'll send it to everyone I know.
Thank you.
No problem.
That so
I'm not that influential. Don't worry. Don't get your hopes up.
I'm not here to be like to become famous, so don't worry about that.
That's one thing I do want to touch on. You say famous. I'm so happy that Stinger is still small. If you know what I mean. Like, I sometimes see he's a pretty good guy, Seraphim, like on YouTube, and he's sort of exploded. Like he's pretty big for an action YouTuber, and he can't, but he can't reply to all the comments. And I for me that would be such a nightmare that eventually you get too big that it's like I can't reply to everything.
Yeah, because you want to discuss with people.
Yeah, I just want to talk to people. So I hope you get popular, but not too popular.
It's the same, really. Like, I understand completely, and I want that. Like, I want my niche and nothing more.
Yeah, exactly. And the second you get out of that niche, it gets too big, and then it's ruined anyway. So, but nice, man. I really enjoyed it. I think you got a good idea here, and I like the name.
Okay, so thank you again. Thank you to everyone who listened to this.
Yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed our or my rambling at least.
So see you next time.
Ciao. Bye bye.